Hey, who's here? How's everyone doing? I have to load it up on my tablet here. YouTube showing me an ad. Okay, let's skip that. There we go. How's everyone doing? Let's see who's already in the chat. I think I saw Cosma's name pop up. Yes. Why is this not showing me now the comments? Do I have to load it again? Is it gonna work this time? Okay, now I see you guys. All right, we'll get started with the lesson at the top of the hour. So all of you right now are early. Let's see, who was the first one? Nyaru. Nyaru was the first person to make a comment. Who else do I recognize here? A Mr. Beast impersonator, welcome. Let's see. Cosmo said, I got a pretty advanced question. Well, I've got a pretty advanced answer for you. Actually, I don't know what the question is. Let me see. Should I ask it here or on Discord? Depends. If you think it could be helpful to someone else, you could try asking it here. If it's something I might need to go research, like if it's something I don't know, then Discord. But I don't know. You could try answering it, depending what it is. And yes, I saw a couple people mention Seol, the holiday. For your Korean friends, make sure to wish them a happy Seol, Seollal. In Korea right now, it's like the weekend for that, the long holidays. It also works out because we get holidays in the US too. So it kind of feels like I'm getting a Seollal. Oh, notice that because of sound change rules, this up here actually gets pronounced as Seollal, Seollal. See, it gets a double letter. Anytime these two letters meet each other, they always fight. Most of the time, this one wins. Most of the time. Not every case. There are some certain syllables where this one wins. But most of the time, it's this. So anytime you see them meet, you can, by default, just replace them both with this. You're probably going to be right most of the time. Over 90% of the time, you'll be right. And then the few cases that you're wrong, they'll still understand what you're trying to say. But yeah, it's the new year essentially. So make sure to wish your friends a happy new year again. You get to do it twice a year, which is kind of cool. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's kind of cool. Song Ming is girl says, another day, another Korean learning. Hey Billy, it's Lizzie trying to get my friend into learning Korean. Well, if you want to understand what your favorite Korean actor or musician is saying without relying on subtitles, which are often wrong or are missing details, then there's no better way than to learn Korean. I mean, right now I'm doing the Stray Kids series, as many of you know, and all of the content I see, well, actually that's not true. Live streams usually don't. But all of the regular content that's uploaded onto their YouTube has English subtitles. So you would think you don't really need them. But what I do for my clips is I actually turn off the subtitles because I found a lot of times they're kind of wrong. Or they'll translate stuff very literally and they'll miss the whole point of what they said, especially with jokes. And you'll see tomorrow when the new episode for Changbin goes up, and nothing that he said would be translated correctly. It would you'd lose the whole point of the joke in the translation. And that's something you have to just speak Korean to understand. In short, okay. So we got a question. Oh, hey, Keith, also. A few other people commented. Bill as well. A few other people I recognize. In short, 피자가 먹고 싶다. Yes, 피자를 먹고 싶다. Yes, but 겨울이 따뜻하게 보내고 싶다. No, 겨울을 따뜻하게 보내고 싶다. Yes, yeah, that's correct. Exactly as you wrote, with the X's as meaning no and the O's meaning yes. So what is the question? I can guess your question, but I want to make sure I know what your question is before I just assume that I know your question. Trying to get a cheaper Korean class. Most are over $200. Well, if you're paying for a in-person class or even online class where a teacher is spending their time to teach you, you get what you pay for. I mean, if you're doing listening practice, like just conversation practice, and they're not actually teaching, but they're just talking with you, then you could get that, you could get that for free. Just get a Korean friend. But if you want someone to actually teach you and you want them to have knowledge of how to do that in any amount, you'll have to pay them for that. That's one of the reasons I personally don't offer tutoring. I mean, I do actually, technically, if someone messages me, I do have like kind of language consulting I can do, but I don't ever advertise I do it because I wouldn't be able to charge a low enough amount that I'd be able to get a bunch of people to do it. So it's more like if someone really wants to talk with me, like they need something from me specifically, like, oh, Billy, no, I need you to explain this specific thing, then okay, I'll do it. But you're gonna have to pay for tutors. Like the more experience they have, the more they charge. So if you say $200 for a class, is that like, multiple weeks, several hours, including homework and grading and projects, then that sounds pretty cheap to me, depending on what it is. Is it right if I say Billy Nim? Yes, Billy Nim, but if I was a regular person, you would say Billy Nim, but I'm not a regular person. I'm a teacher. Teachers aren't regular people. So you'd want to say 선생님 or Sem for teacher. 선생님 is going to be the quickest way. You don't want to call a teacher with 님 because it doesn't sound respectful. Now, I'm not going to be offended, and teachers aren't going to be offended if you do this because we know that you're learning. But a regular Korean teacher who's not a Korean teacher will feel like you're not being respectful. So you want to use teacher as a title with a teacher, and 님 for other people like strangers, or they could be your friend, but they would be people who you're not on a first name basis with. Rico Meister says, hi, pretty. I don't think you're talking about me. Okay, I have a physics exam today. All right. Oh, Cosma's asking, why is the winter one wrong? Because the verb, because it's an action verb acting on a noun, 겨울, winter, and not a descriptive verb. So 씹다 is by itself a descriptive verb. So when you say I want to eat pizza, you're actually describing the pizza as wanting to be eaten. I have a video actually about that. If you search my channel for you might have gotten the sentence from that video. I don't know if you already watched it. But basically, in short, you're using an action verb, 보내다. Now you're modifying it with 따뜻하다. So 따뜻하게 보내다, basically to spend warmly, literally. But it's still at its heart, it's just an action verb. There is no descriptive verb talking about winter. You're not saying winter wants to do this. You're saying, I want to do that. So it's only an action. Whereas the regular verbs like want to eat, you're saying actually literally with 싶다, that is what I want to eat. That is where I want to go, like that. But in this case, you're simply saying an action about it. You're not describing it. So because you're not describing it, you can't use a subject with it, which is one of the reasons why I actually don't teach that you can use the subject marker with the 고 싶다 form, even though you can. It's not something I ever teach to beginners. At least I wouldn't start with that because it's just confusing once you're trying to understand how do action verbs and descriptive verbs work. And then you learn this, you're like, wait, what? Because it doesn't make sense like that. But yeah, basically the other ones make sense because you're directly describing something, but the other examples are not describing it. You're simply saying something you're going to do with that. I'm not sure if that helps clarify it, but let's see. My Korean neighbor stopped by and brought me rice cake soup. Oh, that's really nice. I gave the Year of the Horse lottery scratcher. Lana Sue says, I don't understand how some syllables have 4 sounds, maximum 3. Who said there could only be a maximum of 3 sounds? I would doubt their expertise if they said that. I don't think that's what they meant. There are tons of syllables that have 3, 4 letters, technically more than 4 letters if you count diphthongs and double consonants. That's 2 letters. I mean, you can do this. I mean, it's not a real word, but you could say it. You could say it. and it's a real syllable, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 letters. And you could go further if you wanted to like do archaic stuff or like awkward stuff. Here, let's do that to make it as double sound. Although typically they would do it with just one. Let's see if we can make something that's even more cursed than that. Let's see. If we do, we can make like really weird stuff. Let's see what we can do. And then I can't get it up to more than 6 though, without going into like unused syllables that don't exist anymore. So yeah, but no, it can be more than 3. 3 is pretty normal. Like this is 3 right here. Kang. There you go. But the regular word for chicken is already 4. Pak. That's 4 right there. So however, a syllable itself is always pronounced as one syllable. You know, in elementary school, you learn like clapping, like something you can say in one clap is a syllable, like I want to eat. Those are all one. And then pizza has 2, right? So a syllable is always going to be one of those claps. Yeah, transitive and intransitive verbs. That's right. It depends on if you use an action verb or descriptive verb with 고싶다. Not quite, actually. That's not actually what the difference is. The difference is, are you describing that you're doing something to something? So are you actually using the action verb to and about an object? Like, are you doing something to that object? Like if you pick up a ball, you eat a pizza. If you want to describe doing something to something, you have to use the markers as normal. The exception, though, only comes from the fact that when you describe something that you want to eat or like drink or see, certain verbs, when you describe, you're actually using them to describe an object itself. You're saying that is something that I want to like eat or drink or see, like that, which is why you would use like 피자가 먹고 싶다. Like I want to eat pizza. You're not saying literally I want to eat the pizza. You're actually saying, oh, man, that pizza, I want to eat it, is kind of what you're saying. I do have a video about it, but I can't remember the name of the title. It was in the Korean FAQ series, though. Yeah, I don't know if it is the transitive versus intransitive. No, it's not that one. It's a separate video about 고싶다. If you search for that in my Korean FAQ, I give some more examples of how it can be used. But yeah, that's the reason why I usually don't teach it, even though it is common. In fact, it's more common to use a subject marker with 고싶다 when you're talking about things that you want than the object marker specifically for that reason. But I wouldn't teach it right away because it can be confusing when you're trying to learn how the object marker works. But yeah, the simplest explanation I have for that is in that sentence, you're not talking about the winter being like you're actually getting into a long sentence. You're saying, I want to spend warmly the winter. It's not saying the winter, that is something that I do want to spend warmly. Like you're not going to add a long explanation onto it. You could just say, I want that, and that could be short. But if you start actually making it into an action, then you can no longer use it with the subject marker. Laura said, oh, Laura was talking about something else. Keith says, I don't have to imagine it all. My accent is just as bad. Can you say 우리나라 if you're a foreigner? No. Yeah, you can. It sounds kind of funny, but you can do it. However, they might think that you're not saying 우리나라, but 우리나라. So these are actually different. Whether you have a space or not, they're actually different words. They are said the same. You'll say them both as 우리나라. But if you're a Korean, you say 우리나라, it's one word and it means Korea. Literally means our country, but it's actually used as a separate word to refer to Korea. But when, I can't write on this board sideways. But when you write it with a space, it becomes the grammatical word again, 우리, our, 나라, country. So if you said 우리나라 as a foreigner, it's fine, but it's going to sound to a Korean person that you're talking about 우리나라. Like in our country, we do this. It's not going to sound like, they're not going to consider that you're talking about like Korea. Now there is a way to get around that. If you say 우리나라 말, and then you're complimenting another person on speaking 우리나라 말, like our basically Korean language. That's only Korean language. If you say 우리나라 말. If you talked about it like that, then it would sound like you're jokingly saying you're a Korean person, but it would be fine to say normally, so you don't have to worry about like avoiding that. Does one number C? Oh, yes, yes. Mike just posted the title of the video. Songmin, I asked a question. I'm not sure what you're talking about. I don't know what that is. Oh, you copy pasted it. That's why it was like one number C. I was like, but I'm sure that has to do something with it. But okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Does 고싶다 use a subject or object marker? But yeah, a short thing would be if you're actually saying like a sentence, you're not going to be able to use the subject marker trick for that anymore. The only reason it works is because all you're saying is something 싶다. 고싶다, like it becomes one descriptive verb. It's no longer just the action. But when you're attaching other stuff to it, now it's just becoming the action again. And the reason for that, I explained in the video, like if you say 먹고 싶다, like want to eat, or like 마시고 싶다, want to drink, the verb 먹다 is of course an action verb. However, 고싶다 is not cool part, but 싶다 is a descriptive verb. So when you put them together, you kind of get the ability to use either way you want. But when you start adding other stuff to it, you can't do that anymore, because now you have action, like description, action, description. And it basically, the action part, feeling of it, the nuance of it way outweighs the descriptive verb part. That's it. That's my theory why it would be unnatural to use it. I mean, it is grammatically wrong. If you said it though, they'll all understand what you mean. Oh, hold on, I got a donation. Glass Artist. 선생님 안녕하세요. 오늘은 비가 많이 와서 공부하기 좋은 날인 것 같아요. Okay, as always, thank you for your hard work. 감사합니다. 진짜 감사합니다. Wow, Glass Artist, thank you so much. Glass Artist is single-handedly helping to fund my very slow, but definitely will happen, fund to buy a new computer someday when RAM prices go down, right? Someday? I don't expect them to go down for the next year or so. But maybe 3 years later, we'll see RAM prices go down. And now hard drive prices are going up too, which is bad because I need more storage. Every episode of the podcast that I upload is about 200 gigabytes. I mean, the finished file is only a couple gigabytes, but like the project files for that is about 200 gigabytes per episode. And I'm planning on doing every 2 weeks a new episode. So like 20 episodes a year? That's going through 4 terabytes a year. Yeah, I'm running out of space. I only have about 4 terabytes left of storage. Hopefully those prices will go down someday. But yeah, Glass Artist is single-handedly funding my my either hard drive fund or computer fund. Thank you. Duolingo is free, but of course there are better options, though it depends on your preferences. Duo is hardly free, someone says. It's so frustrating. They bombard with ads and they change from a heart system to an energy-based system. Yeah, I mean, I feel that way about a lot of apps that I use that used to be free, or at least they felt like you're getting benefit for free. Even apps like HelloTalk and Tandem, which I would normally recommend heavily for finding language exchange practice partners for Korean. Even those apps now will push full screen video ads, like scam ads on you. Like you'll open it up, it'll have like some weird romance dating app advertisement right in your face. I'm like, I'm trying to make friends here. And you can't skip it, like makes you wait 10 seconds to skip. I'm like, I just want to check my friend's message. It's scummy. Like I know the reason why. They want more money. but at the same time, then it pushes away the users. So then you got to raise your prices for the users that stay, and then it pushes away more users. Like at what you got to at one point, you have to have something that people want to actually use for finding language exchange partners. And right now there really isn't anything else. So I guess that's how they can get away with it. Tony maybe says it's crashing soon. I hope so, but I don't know. I think paying for a tutor is worth the investment, says Ariel, hoping to sign up for lessons over the summer. I think so too. I think if you're someone who doesn't live near any Koreans, doesn't want to go online and make friends for whatever reason, maybe you're like so extremely attractive that you just can't make friends online. Let me give you a virtual pat on the back for that. But whatever your reason is, there are benefits to a tutor having a real person that you can talk with that can help answer your questions. And I'd say relatively affordable too. If you find someone, if you do tutoring with someone and you're not a big fan of them, just don't book any more sessions. Keep trying until you find someone you like. And then, it might be a few $100 per month, but you would probably spend maybe $100 a month anyway on donations to my YouTube channel, like buying books from people. So it's not like a huge amount of money you're spending, but it's just a good value to have someone you can always bounce questions off of, I think. But yeah, again, it'll depend on the person you get. Okay, we'll start the class in just a couple minutes. You mentioned that Lino orders words differently when he speaks. Yes. Is this typical and informal Korean for emphasis or tone? So yeah, if you want to know a little more about that, I had to cut those videos short. When I was writing them, I told myself I can't make these more than 30 minutes each, and that didn't work. They still became longer than that. But Lino's, since that was the second one, I was a little better at keeping it shorter than Pangtan's episode, that's for sure. But yeah, yes and no. It's if you change the order of words in a sentence, you might have heard other Korean teachers tell you that it doesn't matter, that word order doesn't matter, it'll still be fine. And that's partially true. The sentence makes sense, but it'll sound different. It has different nuance. It'll sound awkward a lot of times. And the thing is, we can do the same thing in English. So this isn't really a Korean specific thing. You can say, today I went to the store. I went to the store today. I, today, went to the store. Which one of those are you going to use, though? And even though they're all grammatically correct, there's a different nuance to that, right? The word that's out of order is the one that gets emphasized. So I, today, went to the store. It's like, today I went to the store. There's nothing emphasized. I went to the store today. A little bit more of the I is emphasized. It's not a big deal, but sometimes the sentence nuance will be swapped around. In Korean, the word that's out of order gets emphasized a little bit more, or it sounds like you thought of it late. What Lino's doing is not that. He's just making up his own thing. Yeah, it's not wrong because you can do it in Korean, but he's moving around words that aren't necessary to emphasize. It's not like he's saying like, 제가 그래서 오늘, 창빈이랑 얘기를 하고 있었는데. He's not just saying like that, like, let me swap that sentence around to how he might say it. 그 창빈이랑 오늘, 얘기를 하고 있었는데, 제가, 그래가지고, like, you can swap some things around and it has a different emphasis. That's not a bad thing to do. It just changes the emphasis. But when you're doing it for no purpose, and it doesn't sound like he's thinking of what he's trying to say, like that's what he wants to say. It sounds like he just has an interesting word order that he just made up for himself. It's not like what he's doing normally where you swap stuff around for emphasis. And doing that is intentional, and it'll be every once in a while when you want to emphasize something. But if you do it like every sentence, it's something different. So yeah. Anyway, I had fun analyzing him. I had fun analyzing all the members. You'll see. We have a new video coming up as well for tomorrow. We've got Changbin next. That'll be tomorrow morning. Okay, we'll get started with the class just less than 1 minute. Don't worry. What inspired you to cover Stray Kids? Well, that's a good question. I think the biggest inspiration for analyzing Stray Kids came from my Patreon members who voted for me to analyze Stray Kids. Hi, Billy. What would you recommend for first-time learners? Online language exchange, pen pals. That's the best option. If you said you don't have someone to practice Korean with, then find someone that you can practice Korean with. If you can afford a tutor or at least just a conversation partner, that's fine too. Natalie says, I can't believe you just called me out for being ugly. It was the opposite way. I was saying if you're too attractive, then you don't want to do the language exchange apps because, everyone's going to be like messaging you all the time. You don't want that. You don't want like 500 people messaging you and then they all ask you like, hey, are you open-minded? I'm from Hongdae. You want people who are actually going to be your friends that you can trust to meet. You don't want to have to filter through, yeah. So that's what I meant. I meant it in no malicious way, I promise. Okay. Oh, we'll get started with the class now. I don't want to keep going. I'll still answer questions during the lesson, but I do want to make sure we get through our lesson today. So we're going to be learning about 3 really important verb endings that are used in questions. Technically, though, we're actually learning about 2 verb endings, but one of them has 2 different forms. The first one we're going to learn is na or nayo. You might have seen this one before, like hada becomes hanayo, like that. This one's really common. This form and all the other ones this form and the other 2 we're going to be learning today are only used in questions. Always only used in questions. So you just take an action verb stem and you attach na if you're speaking casually or nayo if you're speaking politely. And that's pretty much all there is to using it. Now, there is one exception. If the verb stem that you're using, remember, this is only for action verbs. So doing something, if the verb stem ends with this letter, lir, the L letter, you remove it first. And that's it. So let's say you wanted to ask someone, do you live in Korea? 한국에 살다 is normally to live. 살다. Well, this verb stem ends in that letter, so we have to remove it. And then we attach 나. 한국에 사나요? 한국에 사나요? 한국에 사나요? 어디 사나요? 한국에 사나요? You get the idea. 사나요? So that's the only exception, is just this letter. Now, this exception actually should be pretty easy to remember because if you were here just a few minutes ago, I mentioned that anytime these letters meet together, anytime they're back to back, either way, it can be this letter, or the other one, this one. Over 90% of the time, this one loses, but sometimes it wins. In this case, this letter loses, the L. But one of them has to go. And since we're not going to get rid of na because it's part of the literal verb ending, this one ends up winning in this case. No, normally this letter will win if they're ever outside of a specific verb ending like this. This one will win. But in this case, since the verb ending literally is na, this one loses. So you just kick it out. And that's it. And that's the only exception. Okay, so it's used to make questions. But then what's the difference between using this, like, for example, hada, hanayo, and just saying heyo or 합니까 or any other question ending you can think of? What's the difference between using this and just asking it with an upward intonation? Well, this one has an extra nuance that the regular yo form by itself doesn't have, like heyo doesn't have. Actually, let me write this in a different color. That way it's easier to read. The key nuance of this form is that it sounds soft. It's not just asking a question. Do you live in Korea? Do you like kimchi? What is your favorite animal? Why is it the monkey? It has a soft nuance. So, what does a soft nuance mean? It sounds like you're extra curious to know. Like, for example, if you want to ask someone, do you live in Korea? 한국에 살아요? It just sounds like, do you live in Korea? But if you wanted to say something like, by chance, do you live in Korea? It's the exact same question, but a little bit softer. And that's what this form provides. Again, it's the exact same question without using it, but it sounds softer. So regular question, do you like kimchi? Soft question, do you like kimchi? Can you tell the difference? One more. What is your favorite animal? What is your favorite animal? Or, I don't know, is that like Seinfeld or something? What is your animal? That's the favorite. I don't know. This would be like, by chance, what is your favorite animal? It just has a softer feel to it. So that is very useful in Korean, where speaking extra politely can be very useful. So in Korean, if you want your sentence to sound more polite, you can soften it. So simply adding this in a question can make that question sound more polite. Even though I said the nuance is soft, but that can translate to a little bit extra polite. So if you want to ask someone, for example, if you go to a restaurant and you want to ask for a menu, 메뉴판. 혹시 메뉴판 좀 주실 수 있을까요? Could you give me a menu? Is a really polite way you can ask it. 혹시 메뉴판이 있나요? Do you have any menus by chance? It sounds more polite than saying 메뉴판 있어요? Any menus? So it's the same thing. You can do the same. You can make the question without using this, and grammatically it's perfect. But adding this makes your question sound a bit softer, and by that, more polite. So again, soft. Sounds like you're extra curious to know something. Okay, I'll leave this up for just a minute. Then I'm going to do some examples. Does usage vary for men and women? We'll talk about that. But the quick answer is yes. Typically in the traditional Korean mindset, women speak softer than men. So you'll hear this form used more by women in Korea than by men. That doesn't mean that women use it. If you use it, you'll sound like female. That's not what it means. It just means it tends to get used more because it sounds soft. But it doesn't have like a female feeling to it, I guess if that's probably what you're wondering. So no, it's totally fine to use for any gender. Although we will be doing a form here. Let's see. We're going to be doing a form though next after this, which will make a difference. But this one, no, it's fine. BTS Army said, I would just say menu 주세요. Well, that would be wrong because menu in Korea is just the item, the menu item. That would be like saying, give me something on this menu. 메뉴판 would be the menu, the 판, the piece of menu, the paper, the book, whatever. That would be the menu, as we would say in English, menu. But in Korean, menu just means the item. That's why they have the song God's Menu, Shin Menu. It's not God's paper menu that he's looking through and ordering. It's supposed to be a menu item. That's why they talk about like cooking, right? 연두색 너무 부드러운 색깔이에요. It's a very soft color. Although I don't know if this is 연두색. I'd probably just call it 초록색 because it's pretty just green. Anine asks, can you use this with honorific verbs? Of course. You simply take the verb stem, and the honorific verb stem, remember, is ushi, or just shi, after a vowel. So hada would become hashida, right? Unconjugate, like unused, just regular hada as an honorific is hashida. So hashi nayo. Hashi nayo. That's it. You're done. Nothing fancy to it. Dishida, for to eat, 먹다 becomes dishida. So dishi, verb stem, dishinayo. 좋아하다, 좋아하시다, 좋아하시나요? 김치 좋아하시나요? 가다, 가시다. Like that. You get the idea. 있다, to exist. 있으시다. 혹시 더 있으시나요? Like that. Oh, Lexica. Lexica says, minute 7 is glad to learn how to sound less pushy. This, well, let me write your name up. Thank you, Lexica. And yes, if you are asking questions to someone in Korea and you are a tourist, you absolutely, actually, even if you aren't a tourist, but if you're a tourist especially, you absolutely will use this form. I use it all the time, the ending nayo, because you can just ask a regular question, but stick nayo on the end, and it sounds like you're trying to be, it just sounds like you're trying to be polite to them, like extra polite. Now, I wouldn't use this nonstop because it's like, it sounds like you're being extremely timid if you just only use this form. But when you first start talking with someone, you want to be like, you know, hands off. Like you don't want to be, hey there, I have a question for you. I am from America. I'm looking for the bathroom. Like you don't want to do that. You want to sound extra polite when you're making a first impression. So, oh, excuse me, by chance, I'm just, you know, wondering, do you happen to know, 아시나요? Like that. It's much more polite. And then after you've, you know, talked with each other, then you can kind of, you know, tone down the politeness a little bit if you feel like you're, you know, getting more close. But in the beginning, it's good to be extra polite. Can 드릴까요 is a form it's already conjugated. If you're talking about the verb 드리다, you're talking, can you say 드리나요? You could, but there wouldn't be many situations where you could, since 드리다 itself is a humble verb. But the ga ending is already a finish. That's already the end of the sentence. Ga or 가요. So let's take a look at a few examples. See, how are we on time? Okay, we're good on time. 지금, now, 가도 되나요? Can I go now? 가다, to go. 가도 되다, to be okay to go. Is it okay if I go? You normally could just say, 지금 가도 돼요? 지금 가도 돼요? Can I go now? 지금 가도 되다 becomes 되나요? Like, hey, do you think I could go right now? So this changes 지금 가도 돼요? Can I go now? Into 지금 가도 되나요? Would it be okay if I left now? It just sounds softer and more polite. I'm trying to go through this section a little quick because the next section takes a little bit more explanation. But this one, 나요, is that's it. Like, it's super easy. Oh, wait, why did... This one should be down. Okay, we'll move that one down to the next section. This one's higher level. 무슨 일로 오셨나요? So let's first take a look at this part. 무슨 is the adjective version of what. So 무슨 will always be followed by a noun that you're saying, like what noun. In this case, 일. This would be like a purpose, like a job or something you're doing. So 로, for what purpose? Literally, for what reason? 오시다 is the honorific version of 오다, to come here. So 오시다, let's look at that. So we conjugate this into the past tense. normally you'd get 오셨어요. But if we're going to use the 나요 ending, all we need is the verb stem. So the verb stem can be the regular verb stem, 오다, like 오, or 오시다, honorific, 오시. But it can also be the past tense verb stem, 오셨, and then you just attach 나요. There are no other exceptions. So, 무슨 일로 오셨나요? So, for what purpose are you here? Literally, what are you here for? Now, instead of just saying 오셨어요, like, what are you here for? Now it sounds like, what are you here for? It's more polite, it's softer sounding. I'm going to do a simpler sentence after this, though, so don't worry. I'll leave this up for just a minute. Everything Courtney is asking, is it like the difference between 근데 and 지만? No. So 근데 would be a separate word. 지만 would be a form, but I guess you might be asking like 근데 versus 하지만, like that softness. I would say no, because 근데 isn't that it's softer. 근데 just sounds more conversational. Whereas 하지만 would be more straightforward, like however. So that would be the difference between like however and like yeah, but. So I wouldn't say it's softer, it's more conversational sounding. This one is just softer as in like, imagine that you're being more timid when you're asking someone a question. You're not directly asking the question like, who is it? Where is he? Where's Harvey Dent? You're not like directly asking, you're being like, oh, excuse me, do you happen to know where Harvey Dent might be? It just sounds much more polite. It sounds softer. So you're saying the exact same thing, but it's with a softer tone. Okay, let me do another. 로 is not in order to. In here, 로 is for, as in like as for. Like owing to what reason, literally. Let's do a simpler sentence though. Let's see. 김치를 좋아하나요? Very simple sentence. 김치를 좋아하나요? So it's not just 좋아해요, do you like kimchi? But it's like, do you by chance like kimchi? Maybe? Perchance? Or if you wanted to be honorific, 좋아하시나요 would also be fine. 김치를 좋아하시나요? Do you like by chance? You amazing person who I'm being extra respectful toward, kimchi, like that. So you can do a lot of stuff with it. But remember, this is only with action verbs. All of the examples we've done so far have been only action verbs. What if we wanted to use a descriptive verb? Let's think of a descriptive verb. Let's do 친절하다. 친절하다. Actually, let's make it even simpler. Try to think one that like everyone here knows. 피곤하다. Everyone knows 피곤하다, I think. 피곤하다 is to be tired. It's not an action verb. It's a descriptive verb. So how do we make a soft question with 피곤하다? Well, we get the stem. 피곤하나요? No, you can't attach 나 or 나요 onto a descriptive verb. Technically, it would sound wrong. So what do you have to do? Well, you have to use a different form. And that form is 가 or 가요. Now, this doesn't look like it, but it's actually the same thing as 나 or 나요. It doesn't look like it though, does it? But what if you take this letter and what if you like spin it around a bunch of times? Then you get 나요, right? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Don't worry about it. Kayo, though, is the form that's used when you're working with descriptive verbs. So a descriptive verb would be any verb that's describing something. So you take a verb stem from a descriptive verb, and then you attach un if that verb stem ends with a consonant, or you just attach a nian, this N letter, if it ends with a vowel, followed by ka or kayo if you're speaking politely. So it's not as straightforward as nayo, because that one you just stuck it onto the end, and the only exception was if it's ending with a lir, you remove it. This one you have to look at if it's a consonant or a vowel. And there are some more exceptions. If the verb stem ends with that letter again, the L letter, you still have to remove it, just like before. So if you have the verb 멀다, to be far, like it's far away, 멀어요, well, you have to remove that letter. So you get the verb stem, you remove that letter, it ends with a vowel, so you attach this, nian, and then you attach ka, 요, and you're done. 먼가요. So 멀다 becomes 먼가요. 피곤하다, before, 피곤하다 becomes 피곤한가요. 피곤한가요. Okay, this doesn't seem too difficult though, right? Because we do have to do this extra step of looking at whether it's a consonant or a vowel, but this exception's the same. You still remove it. It's not a big deal, but unfortunately there's a little bit more to it. I'm going to take just a 20-second break. I don't want to overwhelm you. And then I'm going to talk about some of the exceptions that there are. Don't worry, it's not that big of a deal. It actually will get easier. It needs to get more complicated a little bit, and then it'll get easier again. So don't worry. What I mean by that is it'll actually get easier. Not like it's hard and then there are easier stuff you have to learn in addition. I mean, the harder stuff will get easier is what I'm trying to say. Trust me, it'll be okay. 아삭한 김치를 좋아해요. Oh yeah, that's the best. 아삭하다 is like fresh, crispy. Yeah, crispy might be what we'd say, but not like fried stuff crispy, but like crisp. Yeah, crisp is probably a better word. Like, you know, when you bite into some fruit. Jinxie says you're on this chapter. Nice. Niaru says it's the same na and ka in the forms na 보다 and ka 보다. Yes, exact same. Okay, so there are a couple other exceptions though you also have to be aware of. If it ends in this letter, you remove it. Also, if it ends with this letter, you're going to probably, at least half of the time, remove it as well. So you remove it and you replace it with u. Now, this is the exact same thing you'll do when you're conjugating that verb anyway. You don't have to memorize a list of words where you do and don't. It's the same as you already are doing for conjugating verbs that end with this letter. So, for example, if you have the verb 춥다, to be cold, well, we first get the stem. This one is normally conjugated as 추워요. So 추워요, right? So you already know this is one of the verbs that's an exception. So for this one, 추, you remove the piup, you remove the piup, you add u, and then you follow the rest of it as normal. 추운가 or 추운가요. Now, not every verb that ends with this letter does that, exactly like when you're conjugating the yo form. If you want to know which verbs do and don't, I actually have a free cheat sheet on my Patreon page where you can check out exactly how to conjugate all of the verbs, including all the exceptions to make the yo form. It's those exact same verbs. There are no special rules. But if you normally would have to remove this, you have to do it again. Exact same thing, remove p, add the u. That's it. Okay, and if it ends with this letter, hiat, which is the H letter, you also will remove it. Not for every verb, but for many verbs. For example, 그렇다. This one means to be so. Like that's what it is. It's like that. Just like that. You have to remove it, and then you're going to do this like normal. So 그런가요. Like that. And that's all the exceptions. So there are 3 to keep in mind. This one, and this one. These 3 you have to keep in mind. Though to be fair, this is not just for this grammar form. These are the exact same 3 exceptions you're going to have to keep in mind for like a million grammar forms. So if you've done this before with other grammar forms, it's the exact same thing. You don't have to memorize anything new. But if you've never seen these sorts of exceptions before, you have to, look at that letter, then it's going to be new. But I'm just letting you know, this is the exact same thing that's like for a million forms. So if you're learning this for the first time and you think, oh man, that's complicated, I got to learn 3 letters and take a look at them for this form. Look at it this way. You're going to learn these 3 exceptions and you're just going to stamp that application to every other grammar form you see whenever the teacher says there are exceptions. Anytime the teacher's like, oh, there are some exceptions now that I think about it. Just, oh yeah, don't worry. I know what you're talking about. It's these. It's always these. There are other exceptions for conjugating the yo form. That's not what I'm talking about though. The yo form has a lot of other verbs that will do different things. But these 3, just like, Harry Potter, Hermione, and Ron, those 3 cause all the problems. So yeah, just keep those in mind, these 3 letters. Okay, so are we done? Well, okay, now is the part. No, almost. One more thing we have to do before it gets easier. And the verbs 있다 and 없다, to exist, or like to have something as you learn. 없다, to not exist. These ones actually, while they are technically used as descriptive verbs because you're saying something exists or something doesn't, these ones actually conjugate as if they are action verbs, not just in this form, but in every form. So these are kind of like secretly masquerading around as descriptive verbs. So these ones will actually become inna with na and not ka. So keep that in mind. These 2 verbs actually don't use this. They use na or nayo. These ones use na or nayo. Okay. Give you like half a minute before I make it a little easier for you. Polygon Gaming, welcome. Oh, Ellie. It is a action verb. Bata is an action verb. So it would have to be na. Ashley asks, will you leave this class up to rewatch? All of mine are left up to rewatch. Sound change rules make me dread practicing my listening. Have you checked out my free cheat sheet? I have a cheat sheet with every single sound change ever on one page. That should help. So make sure to get that. It's free. Like free, like 100% free, not like buy this and you get it for free. It's actually free. Izzy asks, can you put this in a sentence? Yes, we have plenty of sentences. Don't worry. I just want to cover how it's made before we go over the everything else. Okay, so we're not done. So 지금 right now what 하고 있나요? So what are you doing right now? Again, 있나요, not 있은가요. So 있다 and 없다 use 나요. So what are you doing now? But this sounds soft, like just what are you doing now? I'm curious. Except it doesn't have that nuance of like, what are you doing now? But it's soft. It sounds more polite than just saying 있어요. 지금 뭐 하고 있나요? What are you doing now by chance? Okay, we're not done. Now let's make this a little bit easier, because you've been learning that nayo is so easy. You just put it on the end of a verb stem, any action verb, and you're done. But then you're learning that kayo is like, oh, you got to remove this letter, you got to do this, you got to do that, and maybe it's that verb. Okay. Everything we've been talking about for ka or kayo has been in the regular present tense. And it's true. If you want to use those verbs, you got to learn those exceptions because, it's the present tense. But the past tense is a different story. So we learned kayo. That was the present tense. The past tense, however, is much simpler. It looks like this. What does that mean, Billy? It means there is no kayo used in the past tense. If you want to use a past tense verb stem, even if it's a descriptive verb, it'll only use nayo again. Okay, so if you wanted to say, for example, like you wanted to ask someone, was it delicious? No, let's because that's ita. Let's say, okay. I want to do one that I'm not going to have to use later for an example, because there's something else you're going to learn too, which is even better. Okay, let's say this. How was the weather? Normally you could ask, how is the weather? 날씨가 or 날씨는 어때요? How's the weather? So we're going to be using 어때요. So how is it? Well, you could, if we're going to use the kayo form, we're going to first take the verb, which is 어떻다, which is literally to be how. But that's how you use like 어때요, like how is it? Well, we're going to first conjugate it. It's a descriptive verb. So we got to remove that letter. Remember, it's an exception. We attach this. 가요. 어떤가요? Perfect. 어떤가요? But now you want to say not how is it, but you want to say how was it? Well, we have to conjugate the verb normally. And this verb normally in the past tense conjugates as this. 어땠어요? How was it? Well, we get the verb stem, the past tense verb stem. It's not 어땠은가 or anything like that. Because it's the past tense, it has to use nayo again. Even though this is a descriptive verb, when you're using the past tense, it has to use nayo. So 어땠나요? So you don't have to use kayo. You don't even have to think about kayo when you're using the past tense. That's pretty good, right? Makes it simpler. You only have to worry about kayo at all in the present tense. But there's one more thing that I want to tell you, which will make you very happy. But I'm going to wait. I'll wait a little bit. There's one more thing I want to tell you that you're going to really like. But first, let me do some example sentences. I'll make it a little simpler, but we have to do some examples first. Okay. So you can have a simple sentence like this. 이건 meaning 이것은, so like this thing. 이건 어떤가요? Remember, 어때요? 어때요? How is it? 어땠어요? How was it? 어떤가요? How is it? With an extra bit of softness, with that nuance that you're being extra curious. 이건 어떤가요? So how is this? 이건 어떤가요? Again, it's present tense, so you do use 가요. Okay, let's do a different example though. 어디가, so this 어디 is where. 어디가 아프다, to hurt, to be in pain. 아프, in this case, it's not 아프다. We're actually using 아프시다, which is the honorific version to be extra polite. But you could think of this as 아픈가요, same literal meaning. But in this case, 아프신가요 from 아프시다. 어디가 아프신가요? So where does it hurt? If you go to the doctor's office, they might ask you, 어디가 아프신가요? The nurse might ask you, like, where does it hurt? 어디가 아프신가요? So this is very polite. Again, present tense. Anytime you see this ka or kayo ending, you can know it's 100% present tense because kayo can only be used like this in the present tense. Now, there is another form with ka that's not this form that you could use in the past tense, but you're not going to see that in regular conversation anymore. 어디가 아프신가요? So where does it hurt? Okay, I have one more sentence before I give you an extra little trick that you're all going to like. Okay, let me check the chat. What Billy says about don't stress about sound change rules, they'll come naturally with time is true. Unfortunately, it does take time, which is the annoying thing. There isn't really a shortcut. Could you also say motor are you talking about the previous? You're talking about, this sentence? No, because you're not saying, motor would be with the object marker. So you'd have to be doing something. Like you can say motor 먹었어요. What did you eat? But you can't say motor 아프다 because 아프다 is a descriptive verb. It's describing something. It's not hurting. It's not making something hurt. It means to be hurt. So you can't say what is being hurt is hurted. It wouldn't make grammatical sense in English either. Yeah, my Patreon page, they're all free on my Patreon page. You can search there's a tab that says like collections and you'll see the cheat sheets there. Or you can just search for cheat sheet. Is it possible with future tense? Yes, it is. But what you're saying is the conjugation will still be the present tense. I'll show you. If you use it in future tense, you're going to use it with this form. hoshida, which normally like hada would become 할 거야, right? Or 할 거예요. Like that. Because this ya is just ida conjugated, or ie or yeo is also ida conjugated. So 할 거, well, how do you conjugate ida? It's i, n, ka, yo, right? Now, anytime you have two vowels one after the other, it's common, especially with this form, you can just memorize it, that this becomes 할 건가요? 건. So 거인가요, every single time shortens to 건가요. But in reality, you're not actually using future tense with this form, you're using present tense with this form, ida. The future tense, though, comes from the part before. 할 것. This part makes it the future tense. And technically, by that extension, you could use past tense with this form too. If you use the past tense, now this is more intermediate, so don't worry if you're not intermediate. 한 건가요 is also past tense, but again, you're not doing past tense to the form 가요. It's only present tense because ida still only becomes 인가요, which shortens to 건가요. But that's why I didn't include it in this part because that would be more of an intermediate level topic. But yes, if you want to use future tense with this form, you are still only using the present tense conjugation. It's still only ida becoming 인가요 or 거이다 becoming 건가요, like that. Okay, so let's do a couple more. 짜다 is to be salty. 좀 짠가? 좀 a little bit, a bit. Is it a bit salty? Implying, is it a little bit too salty? 좀 짠가? Now, this is a note unrelated to the lesson, but I think you should know it anyway. Descriptions of taste. So bitter, 쓰다, or there are a few other ones. Sweet, 달다. Sour, 시다. What else am I missing? Oh yeah, spicy, 맵다. If you say something is like sweet, sour, bitter, or salty in Korean with those words, you might think that you're saying, oh, it's salty. Oh, it's spicy. What you're actually saying when you use those basic words is too much. So if you say 좀 달아요, 좀 짜요, you're actually saying not that, oh, it's a little salty. You're saying, oh, it's a little bit too salty for me. Like, I don't like it. 매워. It's too spicy for me, is what you're saying. It's kind of like a negative way of describing the flavors. Now, you can say 달고 맛있어요. It's sweet and delicious. But unless you include an explanation for what you're saying for any of those four flavors, it sounds like you're complaining about it. So you could make it up, be like, oh, it's so spicy and I like it. Then that's fine. But otherwise, it default sounds like you're saying it's too much. So 좀 짠가 doesn't mean like, is it spicy? Is it salty enough for you? It's like, is it too salty? Kind of like is what you're asking. To get around that, I actually made a video about this. I think I did. Yeah. On my Korean FAQ series, there should be. To get around this, you use different words that mean sweet in a good way, salty in a good way, spicy in a good way, and bitter in a good way. There are different words that you can use for those, which have a positive nuance. But the default ones all have like it's kind of like you're saying it's too much. 좀 짠가? Is it too salty? A bit too salty for you? 좀 짠가? Again, 짜다. Attach nian, ka, and you're done. Okay, 저건, which is just short for 저것은, that thing over there. 저건. 포도 is a grape. 이다, to be. 저건 포도예요? Is that a grape? 저건 포도인가요? Would that be a grape by chance? It's the exact same meaning, 포도예요, but now it has a softer, more curious nuance to it. 저건 포도인가요? Is that a grape? Might that be a grape? I'm not sure. Is that a grape? Like that. Okay, I'll leave this up for just a minute before we go on to our next sentence. What about umami in Korean? They have umami in Korean. Are you talking about, does it have that same definition of like being too much? No, I'm just talking about the basic tastes. So like sweet, sour, bitter, and spicy. Yeah. I don't think I'm missing another one. Yeah. No, if you're talking about like an umami flavor or a richer flavor or something like that, no, those wouldn't have the same nuance of being like, oh, it's too much, like that. I'm joining late, but 마징가 would be incorrect. The reason is 맞다, to be correct, is actually an action verb. So you have to use 나 or 나요. So 만나요. In fact, a common Busan dialect expression is asking 만나. Is that right? Instead of saying 진짜 or 그래, they say 만나. Is that right? Like that, right? That's true. 만나. You'll hear people say 만나. They're using dialect. Although you could say 만나요. That's fine. That's Seoul. 그게 맞나? That's fine. But once you add the 만나, once you add the intonation where it goes down at the end like that for a question, that's a very Gyeongsang dialect. So that area Busan, it's a Gyeongsang dialect type of intonation. So yeah, it's just a more common way of saying, is that true? But isn't there no descriptive verb in that sentence? What do you mean? Are you talking about this sentence? So the descriptive verb in this sentence is 이다, to be, since it's not an action. So it has to be 가요, like that. Who's excited for Changbin's episode tomorrow? I'm excited to put it up. Okay. Now, there's one more thing you should know about this form that you're definitely going to like. It makes it a lot easier because I said that if the verb ends with like this letter or this letter or this letter, you got to do those exceptions. I also said that if it ends in a consonant, you add or if it ends in a vowel, you add a nian and then kayu. You have to remember a lot of rules for this, right? Right? It's kind of tricky. What if we just didn't use this? Like, no one's stopping us, right? I mean, we can make our own Korean language, right? Who's to say? Who is to say, really? What if we just chose to not use ka and kayu because it's too much work? Well, Koreans are way ahead of you because you can actually get away with not using 가요 and using 나요 instead. In one situation. If the verb stem ends with a consonant and you're not taking a TOPIK test or a Korean language test, that's important too. And actually, I don't need to say this because it doesn't have to only be spoken. You can also use in conversation. If you're having a regular conversation with someone, so it's not like a test, and if the verb stem ends with a consonant, you can just use na or 나요 instead of ka and 가요. Because it's easier. So let me show you what that looks like. Again, don't do this on a test because technically it's not correct. It's not the most correct way. But in regular spoken Korean or, texting, in regular conversational everyday Korean, it sounds perfectly fine to do this. So the verb, actually, let's take a look at a regular one first. So the descriptive verb 크다 means to be big. It doesn't end with a consonant. We can't do anything here. We still need to take the verb stem, which is 크. It ends in a vowel. So there we go. 큰가요? 집이 큰가요? Is the house big? Okay. You still have to use 가 or 가요. You can't avoid it, especially since we're in the present tense. But the verb to be small is 작다. So we get the verb stem. Now, normally it ends with a consonant. So we attach 작은가요? 집이 작은가요? 집이 좀 작은가요? Is the house a bit small? Perfect. 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 Don't let me diss 가요 too much. But this also sounds perfect, even though it's technically incorrect. It should be 작은가요 because it's a descriptive verb, right? But no, you can do it. Just do it. So because it ends in a consonant, you can also just use 나요 at the end. So both 작은가요 and 작나요 are correct. Both are fine. Again, if it ends with a consonant, you can use 나요 instead. You do not have to. You're not supposed to. It doesn't sound better if you do, but it's acceptable. Here's one where you really might want to do it though. 춥다, to be cold. Now, we have to first do something here because we can't just say 추운가요. That doesn't make any sense. It sounds weird. You can't say 추운가요. So we got to remove this, and then we add an u, and then we add the nian, and then 가요, right? 추운가요? 밖이 지금 좀 추운가요? It's a little cold outside right now. But we also could just do this. 춥나요? 춥나요? 좀 춥나요? And that sounds perfect. 추운가요? Perfect. 춥나요? Perfect. Now, if you're taking a test, I recommend this one because it sounds more correct. If you're comparing them, and your Korean teacher probably doesn't want you to know about this one when you're first learning the form. To be fair, you really do need to know how to use 가요. So I'm not teaching you this as a let me say this again. I'm not teaching you this to say that here's how you can avoid using 가요. But I'm teaching you this because this is how it actually gets used a lot. But you still do need to use 가요 for those cases where you don't have a consonant at the bottom and it's in present tense. And there are tons of verbs where that applies. We already saw 이다. 이다 does not end in a consonant. It's super common. You have to use 인가요. There are tons of verbs where you have to use that. Excuse me. 피곤하다, to be tired. 피곤한가요? That's it. You can't say 피곤하나요. You have to say 피곤한가요. I mean, someone might say, oh, 피곤하나요? But it sounds weird. 피곤한가요? So when you're using the present tense and the verb stem doesn't end with a consonant, you have no choice. You have to use 가요. So definitely be familiar with it. But know that in everyday conversation, you might hear people using both ways, and it's fine. Ooh, okay. So, let's do one more example. 괜찮다. Normally you'd say 괜찮아요. 괜찮아요? Are you okay? So, it's a descriptive verb. So we have to do this. 괜찮은가요? But since the verb stem ends with a consonant, you can also just do this. 괜찮나요? 괜찮은가요? 괜찮나요? Both are okay. Both sound perfect. Not one of these sounds better. They just both sound fine. This one is technically more correct. So use this on your test. Use this in your message to your teacher. Know how to do this one. Definitely know that this one's the correct one. But this is the one you'll also hear. You're not going to hear it more. You'll just also hear it. I would say 괜찮은가? 괜찮나? Both sound fine. Neither of them sounds like, oh, that's much more natural. You know, I'm not trying to like be the typical textbook teacher and tell you like, you should use this one because it's more proper. Don't use this one. No, being fully honest, they both sound fine. So you're not like leveling up your Korean by doing this or anything. It just sounds like you're shortening it, but that doesn't sound more fluent or anything like that. In case you're wondering, it doesn't have like a little bit of some extra sauce. No, it's not. It's literally sounds the same if I think about it. So yeah, you're fine using either one, but definitely be aware of this one. Especially because there are cases, as you know, when you have to use 가요 anyway. So, okay. So that is how to use 나 and 가. But there's one more form you also should know how to use. This is the grammar that says ni. You take a verb stem and you attach ni to the end. Now, there is an exception. If the verb stem ends with this letter, just like before, you have to remove it. But that's it. It's the same thing for both action verbs and descriptive verbs. And it's the same thing in present tense and past tense. So there are no exceptions besides this letter. There are no exceptions you have to learn. That's all you have to do. And it has the same conjugation as na and ka. Or I should say as na. So, what is this form then? Well, because you see that it ends in ni, there is no 요 here. This form is only used in casual speech. You cannot ever use this on your test. And you cannot ever use this to strangers. It would be very rude. In fact, this is a special kind of casual speech. Now, normally with casual speech, you can use casual speech toward anyone who's, you know, your close friend, anyone who said you can use casual speech with them, even if they're older than you. Say you become really close friends with someone who's like 5 years older than you, and they say, hey, bro, you know, me and you are good friends. Just speak to me casually, no problem. You would not use this to them. There is a secret level not secret, but kind of secret in that it's not really talked about that much. There is a higher level of casual speech, or I should say, there is actually a lower level of casual speech below the standard casual that you're all familiar with. Some words you cannot use to your older friends, your older close friends. Even if you are speaking casually with them, you still wouldn't use certain words and expressions. And this is one of them. This one is casual, but only to people who are the same age as you or younger. Even if you're speaking casually with your friend and they're older than you, you wouldn't use this one to them to ask them questions. Another common word that also would be in that level is the word no for you. You wouldn't say no to your older friends, even if you're really close and you're speaking casually. Oh, 뭐 했어? 재밌었어? You wouldn't say 너는. You wouldn't say no to them, and you wouldn't use this form to them either. It's not a rude sounding form. I'll talk about what it is, but it would be more casual. So this one is casual speech, but it's only used to people who are the same age as you or younger. That's more of a rule. So even if you're close with someone and you're speaking casually with them, you wouldn't use this form still. You can say na or ka without the 요, but you wouldn't use ni. So what is this? Well, just like the na ending, this ni ending also has a soft feeling. That same soft feeling that na had. Sounds like you're a little bit more curious. You're like, by chance? What do you think? Could it be? It has more of a soft and, by extension, kind of a polite feeling. However, it's not polite, right? It's casual. So it has that casual feeling added to the soft feeling. So it sounds like you're speaking softly as a friend. Like, hey there, buddy. I don't know what I'm doing. Am I trying to give you a shoulder massage or strangle you? Hey there, buddy. How's it going? Do you think you might have, do you think you might know something? Do you think this could be? What do you think? It has a soft and friendly feeling. I know that sounds like psychopathic, but hopefully you get what I'm trying to go for here. It has a soft feel, just like na, but because it's casual, it also has a friendly, lighthearted feeling. And this has a specific nuance. It sounds like the person who's using it, this person, it sounds like the person is talking down to someone. Like, hey there. Like, I'm looking down at you. Hey. So it's soft, like, oh, by chance, might you know, 혹시 아니? 그거 좋아하니? 어디 갔니? 뭐 했니? It sounds kind of like a parent talking down to their kid. Now, it doesn't have to only be used by parents, but it kind of has a nuance of like you're talking down to someone almost. Yeah, it's kind of like you're talking down to someone. Now, that doesn't mean rude talking down, but you are like talking down. You're like, hey, I'm going to talk down to you. I'm not going to speak extra politely. That's the reason why you cannot use this with your older friends, because it has the nuance of talking down. Like, I'm older than you sort of feeling. So if you use this to your friend, even if they're the same age as you, it has the nuance of like, hey, I'm older than you, so I'm going to ask you a question, but I'm going to sound soft when I do it. Because of that, if you use it to your friends, it kind of can sound like sarcastic, because if you're the same age as someone, but you're talking down to them and asking them something, they're not going to take it seriously, right? They're going to think, well, why would you say that? That would be rude. If you were serious, you're not serious, you must be sarcastic. So it sounds like sarcastic if you use it to your friends. Now, if you use it to your friends who are much younger than you, it still can sound a bit sarcastic. It's like, why are you talking to me like my parent? That sort of feeling. So it can have kind of a sarcastic feeling. If it's not used in humor though, and if it's not used in the correct way, it can sound a bit rude. So if you're like seriously using it to your friend, and it's clear you're not joking and you're not someone who normally jokes with them, it'll just come across as rude. Like, hey, I mean, I know we're speaking casually, but do you really have to talk to me like that? Sort of thing. So yeah, it's soft sounding, like soft voice. It's soft sounding, like you have a really soft voice, and it's friendly because it's casual, but it still kind of sounds like a parent talking down to their kid, or maybe like, a boss talking down to their employee, or a teacher talking down to a student. That sort of feeling. With that said, I do not mean that this form is not used. It is used. It's commonly used between friends for sarcastic jokes. Also, it could be used if you want to mock someone, like you want to say something rude, like a bit snarky. But in its regular use, you're not going to hear it too much used straightforward. But yeah, it kind of has like a lecturing type of feel to it. Because of that, because it has that kind of feeling of like someone talking down to someone, it is often avoided between male friends. At least they won't use it for its intended purpose. They might use it to be sarcastic or to be rude, but it's not going to be used as a common ending between male friends because it has that sort of nuance to it. You might hear this one more used by females. Now, that's not to say if you're a male, you shouldn't use it, because there are plenty of forms that are used more often by females that tons of men also use, and it's totally fine. But just be aware it does have slightly of that kind of connotation if you were using it seriously. So to say this in a simpler way, because this has kind of the nuance of like talking down to someone, it's not used so much between friends unless you're kind of joking. Okay, I'm going to leave this up for just a minute, and then I'm going to give you some example sentences. Polygon says, I'm older and smarter than you, so I'm going to talk like I'm a superior. Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, sort of condescending. A little bit, yes. Though, soft condescending. But you know what I'm talking about, right? You're like, hey, now, did you think that was a good idea? Like that. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be rude. It could be the teacher trying to be like, do you think that was a really good idea? Like if they're being sincere, it wouldn't feel rude if someone were to say that, if they're really trying to help you. But if you're saying it out of that context, you're like, to your friend, what did you think of that? It kind of feels like that. So you're going to be using it sarcastically and not actually for its intended purpose more often. I always try to make comparisons with English because I think it kind of helps you demystifies some of the grammar in Korean. Then you kind of feel like, oh yeah, I guess I can understand why someone might use that. Yeah, you could use it to kids. You could use it to your friends who are younger, like much younger, if you have much younger friends. Hopefully not that much younger. Someone said zombie grab. Oh, Gummy Girl, you didn't get the notification? Well, I'll let you know, Gummy Girl, whenever I do a live stream, it's always the exact same time. So you can just come in here if I have a live stream, and you got 2 out of 3 weeks that I'll be doing one, because I do a class I do 2 classes in a row, and then I take a class off, and then 2 on, 2 off like that. Except when I'm in Korea, then it'll be whenever I set it up. You might have to turn on the notification though. Ashley says, kind of reminds me of Noel versus Tangsin. Yeah. I mentioned that Noel is also only for people who are the same age as you or younger. If you say Noel to someone older than you, even if you're speaking casually with them, it sounds rude. It sounds like you're putting yourself above them. They might think, I'm older, but I understand in Korea we have this whole hierarchy, and I know where you're from, you don't. And I'm cool with that too. I think we're all equals as humans. So go ahead and speak casually to me. But then if someone uses no, it's kind of like, all right then, like I'll talk down to you. And it's like, no, like be kind, speak equally to me. They might use no to you though. It's a separate part of casual speech that's detached from the regular casual speech. There are some things in there. There's no, there's the udyum, there's like yum form. I've also taught that before. There's this ni ending. There are a few things like that which are exclusive to people who are younger than you, not just casual speech. Like if you're on a casual speech basis, these are still things you wouldn't be able to use because it sounds like you're talking down. And the reason for that is because there is another speech level in Korea, which is mostly extinct now. You'll still hear it a little bit from older people, I'd say like in their 60s. Some older people might use an older Korean speech level that used to be more prominent and nowadays is not in everyday speech. But that speech level had a feeling of talking down to someone. And parts of those speech still sound like that today when they're used. It sounds like you're talking down to someone. It was originally a friendly way of talking down to someone in Korean, like the older speech levels in Korean. Now you don't really have to learn it anymore. I did a lesson about it in my Master Politeness Levels course, just kind of covering what it was briefly, but you don't really need to worry about it. But there are some parts of that kind of carry over and still apply, and this is one of them. Let's do some examples. Yeah, like originally Korean had something like 7 politeness levels or something, but you only really need to use 3, I think, nowadays. And if you want to be able to read old stuff, then you would need more. But for modern Korean, you're good without learning all of those, which is kind of good. It would be kind of frustrating to have to learn all these politeness levels for Korean. Like Japanese does have more. Korean doesn't really use them as much. So 더 먹을 거니? 더 meaning more, 먹다 to eat. So this is 먹을 것이다, right? The future tense. 더 먹을 거예요, basically. But in this case, 거 plus 이다 plus 니. 거예요, 거이니. But this shortens to 거니. Just like 것이야 becomes 거야, right? Becomes 거야, just like that. The same thing happens here. 거니. So this would be future tense. Now, again, it's not future tense here on the ni. It's just future tense for the verb 이다, which is 것이다 here. So 더 먹을 거니? Are you going to eat some more? 더 먹을 거니? This would be like a mom would say it to their kid. 더 먹을 거니? But you could jokingly ask your friend, again, your friend that's the same age as you or younger, 더 먹을 거니? You gonna have any more? It sounds like that. It sounds like you're like condescending, like, are you gonna have any more? 더 먹을 거니? Like that. It has that tone. So your friend probably will laugh because it has that nuance to them. They're like, what? Oh, okay. 아니, 난 됐는데. 넌? So yeah. 더 먹을 거니? Are you gonna eat any more? How are we on time? Actually, I'm okay on time. 맛있니? 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 Does it taste good? Does it taste good? 맛있니? So if your friend's eating something and they're like, nom, 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 you can be like, 맛있니? Is it good? Do you like it? It kind of has that nuance. Like you're, talking down to them a bit. But again, with your friends, it sounds sarcastic, so it's okay. It's like you're joking. You could say it seriously, though. Like, say, a guy might say it to his younger girlfriend. 맛있니? Like, is that good? Like that. You buy them some fancy meal, and they're like, nom, 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 eating it. Oh, 맛있니? Like that. Is it good? Kind of like that. Sounds like you're talking down to them. But again, it's not necessarily rude unless you're using it in a way that would be like condescending. I was trying to write the next syllable before I finished the first one. 지금, right now, 그게, which is short for 그것이, same thing. 지금 그게 중요하다, to be important. Right now, is that important? 지금 그게 중요하니? 지금 그게 중요하니? Is that important right now? 지금 그게 중요하니? Is that important right now? Again, it has that kind of talking down feeling to it. So this might be something that a parent would say to their kid. You know, a teacher might say to their student, 지금 그게 중요하니? Is that important right now? But probably you wouldn't use it to your friends, again, unless you're like joking. Otherwise, it can sound a bit rude. Okay, I'll leave this up for just a minute. Yeah, Polygon Gaming. Yes, that's right. Exactly. Null can be used with all friends? Nope. Yeah, only same age as you or younger. Definitely you do not want to use null with older friends. So to be safe, just ask your friend what they want you to call them. They'll probably say don't use null, actually. They might even just straight up tell you like, oh, you can just call me, you know, hyung or, you know, 언니 or whatever it is that they want to use. And in which case, if you know what to call them, you wouldn't need null anyway, because you could just call them that, call their title. Null would be like, you're not using their title, you're not using your name, you're just saying, hey, you, like that. So it can sound quite rude. If your friend is older than you, it would be really rude. If your friend's younger than you, it just doesn't sound rude in that case, but it sounds like you're dismissing, like calling out to them by their name. It's okay though for younger friends. It's just, I personally recommend using a person's name if you're the same age as them or younger, and use, ask them what title they prefer if they're older than you. They might still say, call me by my first name if they're older than you, but ask them what they prefer. They're probably not going to say no or 당신 or anything like that. But yeah, the trick for politeness levels for casual speech is just ask. Koreans know what casual speech and polite speech are, and they'll tell you what you should use. I do want to say something about that though. If you have a friend who's younger than you, first start the other way. If you have a friend who's older than you, feel free to ask them if they want to speak casually with you. If you're close friends, like, hey, you want to speak casually? You can speak casually to me if you're younger. Go ahead and tell them that. Because the older person might feel like, oh, I kind of wanted to let you speak casually to me, but I felt like I didn't know if I should ask. But if you have an older friend and you want to speak casually with them, just ask. If you have a friend who's younger than you and you want to speak casually with them, be careful. Don't assume that asking is the right answer. This is a culture issue. So if you are not intermediate, you can plug your ears for a second because I don't want to confuse a beginner. But if you have a friend who's younger than you, but you're friends and you want to speak more casually with them, but they always use polite speech to you. So you're using polite speech to them, they're using polite speech to you. And you want to tell them, hey, can we speak casually? Be careful about that. Be considerate of them. Think really hard if they're the type of relationship where you think that would be okay before you ask. Like, really think about it. Would they want to speak casually to me? Like, have we already been close enough that it would be fine? And then it's okay to ask. The reason I'm saying this is because if you're older than someone and you ask and you tell them, hey, you can speak casually to me, they might not want to, but due to Korean culture where the older person is considered more, they get more respect, their opinion is more important, they might feel obligated to just say yes, like, 그래, 괜찮아, 좋아. They might feel obligated to do that even if they don't feel comfortable. And then you're going to be in a situation where you're talking casually and they're speaking casually, but they feel awkward about it and they're not going to want to talk with you as much. That's if you don't have a good relationship. So just think about what your relationship with them is. And if you really want to know, it's better to ask them what they would think about it. Don't say to them like, hey, let's speak casually if you're older, because they might feel like obliged to do that. You might instead ask them, oh, would you feel comfortable speaking casually with me? What would you think about that? Maybe ask them their opinion on what they think instead of just telling them to do it, just because that sort of thing also exists in Korea. I haven't had any situations with this personally, but it's something I've heard other people had. 창문 is window. 창문 닫았니? 닫다 is to close. So 닫았어요? Did you close the window? 닫았니? Did you close the window? 창문 닫았니? Did you close the window? I'll leave this up for just 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1. And that is the lesson. Let me take a quick thumbnail. Maybe that, like a question. I'm asking a question. Now I'm gonna take some questions. So we finished right on time, what I was hoping. We learned 3 forms. We learned na, ka, and ni. Feel free to ask any questions about any of the 3 forms we learned, or questions about anything else you'd like to know. I'll stick around for at least 15 minutes. Won't stick around too long because I do have to edit this video and finish up some stuff for tomorrow's release. But yeah, hopefully that made sense. Hopefully it wasn't too confusing. I know that verb conjugation can sometimes be a bit annoying. At least I was really annoyed with it when I was a beginner. But just know that the stuff you're learning today applies to like every other grammar form that has exceptions. So if you learn it once, you're not relearning it for every form. Koreans hate pronouns. They omit them most of the time. No, it's true. You don't need pronouns in Korea for the most part. There are cases where you do, but if you show me the case, I'll tell you the reason why they would use it. Most of the time, you don't need them. Is there a difference in manners in American to Korean culture? You're talking about food manners, like at the table manners, or just a specific type of manner? If you let me know the specific case, I can tell you, but manner difference between Korea and America is too big of a topic to answer, at least with this short amount of time we have right now, since everything would be quite different. I always feel awkward when people use 높임말, im, instead of un, 높임말. Since literally you're not saying high words, you're saying 높이다, which is to raise. 높임. Makes me feel bad my Korean isn't at a level that automatically conjugate to shida. I think though, I mean, if they're using it to you, then I get what you feel. You're like, I want to use it back to you too, because it's polite. Why can't I conjugate that to you? I'm considering, Keith, I haven't decided, but I'm thinking about making a cheat sheet for honorific and humble speech. Like everything on one page. That's one of the new cheat sheets I want to make. I might do that. Probably, but I can't say I will yet until I actually start working on it. But yeah, hopefully that would help. But I get what you're saying. 사투리 좀 가르쳐 주실 수 있나요? Very nice usage of the 나요 form. What dialect do you want? I've actually made 4 dialect videos already. I did one on all of the dialects in Korea briefly. North Korean dialect, Busan dialect, and Jeju dialect. Is there a dialect that you want to learn I haven't already made video on? Check it out. Or if you have a specific question about one of the videos I already made. Lisa with love. Yes. Noah says, I feel like I've seen the form used in many places and I didn't fully know it, but I just understood the main meaning. Well, if you basically understood it, that's great. Hopefully I helped kind of fill in some of the holes in this lesson. Tiffany Gary. Thank you. Tiffany Gary, let me write your name up here and then I'll answer your question. Tiffany says, I got Korean Made Simple and the workbook. Okay, nice. Do you still do private Korean tutoring? I'll tell you a secret, and that's yes, I do not advertise this because my prices are not comparable with like a tutor on italki. Excuse me. I think my throat's sore today. Or maybe just dry. I think it's just dry because the weather changed. If you want just a tutor for conversation practice, I recommend getting just any rando tutor on italki, and I mean that. Like, if you just want conversation practice, anyone can do that. They don't need special Korean certificate or teaching experience just to be your conversation partner. If you want like a tutor to explain stuff, then you're gonna have to start paying. Those will be like typically anywhere from like 20, 25 bucks an hour up to like 40 an hour, depending on their experience and how attractive they are sometimes. But since I'm not just a Korean teacher, I'm also full-time making YouTube videos and stuff, I don't have much time. And a lot of people have messaged me asking me to tutor them. So I can't price myself that way. If you would like information about that, feel free to send me a message and I'll send you a link to my secret private tutoring page I have, but it's not something I ever advertise and it's not something I frequently do, just because it's more for like, if you have like a specific question, like you want consulting on like, what should I do with my learning? I have these materials. Where should I go? What should I focus on? Help me make a study plan. Like those types of things I can help you with. But if you have like, oh, how do I conjugate this verb? I don't really understand this form yet. That sort of stuff. I mean, I would just pay $10 and $20 and do a quick tutor on italki for that. But yeah, if you do really, really want me to explain something, then send me a message and I'll forward you a link to my tutoring. I would love the humble cheat sheet. Yes, I would like to do that. I think it's overdue. 사투리 쓰는 사람 귀해요? 보기 쉽지 않아요. I think for younger people, it's rare. I do have a few friends, though, that speak dialect. I have a friend who speaks Busan dialect, really obviously, but he grew up his whole life speaking like that. I think he was raised by his grandparents, and he actually still, to this day, speaks very Busan dialect. I have a friend who speaks, couple friends actually, who speak really Daegu dialect. One of them is like strong Daegu dialect. The other one is like, they can do it, but they don't use it normally very much outside of intonation. But these days it's rare. Most people don't speak any dialect because unless they're raised by their grandparents or grew up on in a middle of nowhere sort of place, like far away from the city, there's no way that someone would learn dialect. So everyone nowadays, if they came from Busan, you can ask them, do you speak dialect? And they're going to say, oh, of course I do. And they're going to say a few expressions. But that's just like memorizing those expressions. It's not that you actually speak the dialect. It's like asking me, who's from LA, can you sound like a surfer? Oh yeah, totally, dude. Yeah, tubular. But it's an impression of what that sounds like. It's not the real thing because I didn't grow up that way. Like no one did except from the 70s or 60s. So it's kind of like that. It's doing your best impression by hearing that from other people, but to speak it on your own without trying to do an impression of it, but like naturally doing that yourself is not so common nowadays. Airae. That's one. Aida would be also common for that. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff for that. A lot of the Busan dialect, though, is the exact same as the Busan dialect. So Daegu and Busan have the biggest difference is their intonation, but the words they use are almost identical. There are a couple little differences here and there, but the actual words are mostly the same. It's the way that they're going to pronounce it, because they'll put an accent on like the first syllable or the second syllable, like that. Yeah, italki would be like, I'm so late. My excuse, I was at my fabulous dad's 90th birthday. Oh, happy birthday to him. That's awesome. Nice. Yeah, italki is just a tutoring platform. I don't have any affiliation with them. Grey Wolf says, I started your beginner Korean playlist. Thank you for making this information so readily available. Oh, nice. Glad you're enjoying it. Today is my father's birthday. Cool. Kaga. Yeah, though that's mostly like a meme. No one actually says that. Because you don't need to say kaga. Like, why would you say, is that person that person? Like, when would you make that sentence? When would you say it? It's more of like if you think about it, technically saying this would sound like this, but it's not something that they actually say. A better thing that they actually say would be morakano, which is morago hano, morakano. Morakano would be pretty common. Kaga is more like a meme expression. There's another one you'll also see in the IN episode of Stray Kids, which will be 이거 어디까지 올라가는 거예요? Which is like, if you say this expression in Busan dialect, it has an intonation which keeps going up and up and up and up until the very end. 이거 어디까지 올라가는 거예요? Like that. But a lot of that stuff is more like memes. because it's not a regular expression you'll hear. It's just like, well, what if you said this word in this situation? Then it'll have to sound like this. But yeah. Haga is just that person is that person that you're talking about, right? Like, oh, it's that person that you're talking about, right? Kind of like that, but the literal meaning is that guy's that guy, right? So, or that girl. So it's more like you're not actually ever going to say that. It's not an actual expression. It's just, it could be an expression, but it's not a normal thing you'd say. But kaga would be possible, or kaga at the end. Like if you're talking about something and then kaga, is that the person? That's okay. But like together at once is a bit odd. You're not actually going to get that. So it's easier to understand than you think because you don't have to worry about those kind of meme expressions. There's like, I can't remember. There's another like crazy Busan expression. It's like, if you technically put this word together and make this sentence, look how hard it is to understand. But the thing is, no one actually does that. So. 오늘 가르치셔서 감사합니다. Thank you for teaching today. It's still more common, I would say, to use 가르쳐 주셔서, but yours is also technically grammatically correct too. That's funny though. It's your father's birthday. It's a couple days ago, it's also my grandmother's birthday too. It's all the old people getting older all at the same time. Okay, I can take any questions you have. Let me see if I missed anything in the chat. Okay. Yeah, tomorrow we have the new video for Stray Kids. So Changbin, that'll be at early in the morning. And then if you are one of my Patreon members in the top tier, you can also watch Hyunjin's episode tomorrow morning too. So you get two of them tomorrow morning. What's the best way for beginners to learn? Bella Moore, I have a beginner course. I'll link that in the chat. Let's see. Okay, it should link in the chat pretty soon. Yes, there we go. Check that out. I would recommend trying that first. It's free, so you don't have to buy anything. You don't have to commit to learning Korean. You can just start there. It's 100 episodes. Takes you all the way up to it's like a mid-beginner level, I'd say, honestly. It does go a lot of cover a lot of stuff, but by itself, it's not enough to make someone fluent. It's a good first step though. It'll get you a lot of like the foundational basics that then you can use to go on to what you want. And it'll give you plenty to actually get started with going into the language. So if you finish it, then you can be like, oh, I want to start watching shows. Then you can go right in to start watching shows. Tiffany says, I'm a beginner, but when I speak, I sound so bad and foreign. Practicing just sounds incorrect. That's pretty common. Everyone sounds like pretty unnatural when they first started learning Korean. Some people sound good right off the bat, but that's rare. Most people I hear don't sound natural in Korean when they start learning. Especially if you come from like an English speaking background, I feel, where we have a lot of intonation in our voice. So that intonation gets translated into Korean and it'll sound really awkward. I'm too scared to just order a cafe. Yeah, Tiffany, they say in Korean, 시작이 반이다. Literally, the start is half. Like just saying hello by itself is the hardest part of the entire conversation. But if you just say hello, you've done most of the work. Like you can just say hello and then if they don't reply, it's okay. You did a good job. I also have a video on my channel about dealing with language speaking anxiety. You can just search the word anxiety on my channel. You'll find it. I get it. It's hard though. You might want to get a tutor, someone that you can practice with online, without the pressure of, even saying like, 안녕하세요 it can be kind of stressful, right? Because then it's like, oh, what if I say it wrong? What if I say like, 안녕하세요, wait, 안녕하세요, oh, shoot, like leaving and never coming back. even that can be a bit stressful, so I get it. Yeah, you can try a tutor, just get any tutor at all. Like just a conversation. Really, you're just looking for a conversation partner. You're not really necessarily paying someone to tutor you as you're just trying to get someone to kind of help you practice the stuff you're already studying. And you should still be studying, but you need to be practicing along the way the stuff you're studying. It says tempting to move to top tier for those early vids. Yeah, it's normally you get all of my videos early, including podcasts and everything. But right now, especially when I have the Stray Kids series, you get the next video a whole week in advance. So tomorrow morning when Changbin's video goes live, you'll get Hyunjin's at the exact same time. So you can, do a double feature. 정말, 감탄, 동의, 강조. I see you're listing words. If 정말 or 진짜 is an adverb, why can you place it where you want in a sentence? That you can use it on, you can use adverbs on its own because you're describing what you're talking about. You can use adverbs normally on their own. The most natural place for an adverb to go though is directly before the verb, or directly before whatever the verb. Sometimes the verb can be like a noun plus a verb together, but it'll be right before the actual verb. So whatever is the verb in the sentence, put the adverb right there. If you move it around, grammatically you can do that just like you can in English, but by moving it around, you change the nuance of the sentence. So it adds emphasis to that word you're moving around in the wrong spot. And most of the time you don't want that emphasis. Like if you want to say, I have to leave now quickly. That sounds okay. I have to leave quickly now. Okay. I have to leave now. No, I quickly have to leave now. It's correct in English, right? It's just a different nuance. Quickly, I have to leave now has a different nuance too. And Korean's the same thing. You can move the word around and your sentence is going to be fine. But most of the time, the natural intonation, the most natural nuance will be with the adverb right before the verb. So I have to go quick. I have to go now quickly, basically is what you're saying. In English, though, we tend to say now. We tend to say the time at the end. So it'll still sound a little bit different, just the way we order our sentences in English. But if we take out the word now, I have to go quickly. I have to go right away, right? Is how we'd say it. We don't say right away I have to go most of the time. And in Korean, if you were to say like, 지금 빨리 가야 돼. Sounds natural. 지금 가야 돼 빨리. That sounds like quickly, I have to go. So it's the same sentence, but now your nuance is on quickly by moving it around in the sentence. So that's sort of what you're looking at when you move them around. When I started learning, I'd taken German in high school. So I spoke Korean with a heavy German accent. Yeah. 안녕하세요. I can't do a German accent, so I can't do this. What would that be? I was born in Dusseldorf, and that's why they called me. I don't know what a German accent would be. So, yeah, but that would be kind of funny. But American English speakers have that too. Sometimes say 안녕하세요, 저는 like that. It's the American accent coming. 저는 Billy라고 합니다. I did it when I was a beginner because like, what are you supposed to do? You can't get rid of your intonation that easily. And yeah, you can still hear it. And we could hear that as well for Chan for the first Stray Kids episode. I didn't know what it was, but I assumed it was his Australian intonation, and it was. Many people commented and said, yes, it is his Australian intonation, where he would add like an upward ending at the end of his sentences. I'm like, it's unique, but that must have come from his Australian. It's just hard to get rid of your native intonation unless you're purposely like doing shadowing and you're doing lots of listening and you're trying to copy that. My Korean Filipino cousins are there. Oh, nice. Then you'll have someone you can hang out with when you go there, or someone who can help give you a tour around. I'm Jamaican, so I'm trying my best. Nice. We speak English, but again, okay. Yeah, that's true. It is going to be a little bit different. My speaking anxiety is holding me back. Yeah. Check out the video I made about speaking anxiety. It might help give you some ideas for things you can do. Something you can try to do is like recording yourself speaking in Korean. Audio only if you're too nervous to even turn on a camera. But yeah, you can turn on a phone, record it, only you watch the video, delete it after if you want, or, keep it for a record would be better. Just getting used to speaking Korean in itself will help a lot with that. And it just takes time. It's not like there's a quick shortcut to getting over your anxiety. If you are an adult, some people like drinking to getting over their anxiety a bit. I don't need that, but some people say they do that. Making sure you're relaxed, like telling yourself all I need to do is say this one expression and I'm done, is also a helpful thing. So yeah, it's just something you just kind of deal with. I'm curious about Shimbata. Yeah, I actually talked about that really briefly in my latest podcast episode. So Shimbata is actually from it's shim, which is an older version of sam for ginseng. There are other words for, I think it's shimmani. Shimmani is the word. Shimmani was an old word for a ginseng picker. Like they would go live in the mountains for like a week, and then they would like get adjusted to living in the mountains, and then they would spend all their days for like weeks or whatever, or several days. They would just look for ginseng, wild ginseng, and they'd get sansam, which would be like wild ginseng. So like sansam would be the mountainous wild ginseng. This is the most really valuable type of ginseng. And it's not like you can't just grow it. You have to find it wild. So they would be completely quiet and they'd all focus. And because ginseng was crazy valuable, it's like gold at the time. And when they found it, they would shout out, Shimbata. Pata is 봤어요. I found it. I saw it. Shim would be the ginseng. So like, hey, I got it. Basically, it's like, got some ginseng is what it means. But the expression shimbata, it's used as one word because it's not a standard Korean word. That is used today when you find something incredible. It could be like metaphorically found something or physically found something. People, shimbata, like I got it. Oh, like that, kind of like a eureka sort of thing. I think also I mentioned that in Korean Reading Made Simple 2, there's also a quick explanation because there's a story about the shimmani, people who are like finding the ginseng. Again, these are not words you normally need to know, but shimbata is useful. I'd say that's pretty useful expressions. It's funny. I've been studying the 가지고 싶어요 and I use this more for objects or items rather than food. Yeah, because literally you're saying 가지다 or 갖다 is to have something. Like, think of it like to hold it. Like you have it in your hand or you have it in your pocket. That's 가지다. So when you say I want to have food, like, are you smashing the pizza and stuffing it in your pocket? Like, are you just kind of holding it? No, you mean I want to have pizza means I want to eat it. So you wouldn't use it for food. If you said, 지금 피자 한 판 가지고 싶어요. Like, right now I want to have a pizza. That just means you want to hold it like you want to collect it. You're some freak who just collects pizza and lets it rot on your dining table. So you mean eat, in which case you wouldn't use 가지다, which is again just to have it. For your beginner course, I put verbs like 공부하다 with the object marker, and some verbs don't have it. That's right. If it doesn't have it, it doesn't have it. I purposely wrote them like that if it possibly could have it. And 중요하다 is a descriptive verb, so it can't have it. If you ever forget though, if it's a descriptive verb, it's not going to have it. That might help. It has to be an action verb to have that in the first place. So it's like a victory shout, not quite a victory shout, but like you win something, you've got something. It's not like, oh yeah, Shimbata, I beat you. It's not that. It's Shimbata, I won this award sort of thing. Yeah, descriptive verbs don't split. You are correct, Keith. And there are a few other like tricks you can use. Like if the verb has 3 syllables, it also can't split. No matter what verb it is, you don't have to remember that. It just can't split if it's 3 syllables. And there are a couple other tricks too for like, oh, if it's this, it can't split. But if you memorize it how I wrote it in the course, it's already there for you. I purposely knew people were writing down notes and I'm like, okay, for every word that's in there, if it can be split, I put it as a possible split with the parentheses. And if it can't, I put it without. And I do that for all my lessons. 난 영어를 공부한다. 영어를 공부한다. 나는 공부한다. 나는 영어를. But those are wrong, though. I know what you're saying, Ji-hoon Lee, but only the first one sounds natural. The second one sounds like you are speaking. 영어를 공부한다. 나는. That sounds like you're speaking, and it sounds a bit... It's okay, but it sounds a little bit like you thought of something to say late. The third one just sounds really weird. 공부한다. 나는. 영어를. Sounds wrong. That's like saying English. I study. English. Do you speak it? It sounds kind of like that. Like, yeah, it makes sense. Grammatically, sure, you can say English. I speak in English too, but it sounds weird. So Korean's not as flexible as people might tell you, even though technically you can move them around. Only one of those ways will sound really natural, and the other ones will have different nuance to them and sometimes sound strange. Now I'm curious how they grow ginseng in Korea. I don't know how they grow. I think there still is sansam, which is still only found in the mountains. But nowadays, ginseng obviously is not as rare as it used to be. I'm sure maybe they figured it out. They have farms. But then again, I mean, I know like truffles still nowadays you can get like truffles that are grown in a farm. And then you can get truffles that are picked in the wild by truffle pigs, right? And people still say the ones that are picked will taste much better, like the natural ones, because they grow among like the bigger types of trees and different soil, and they just taste much better. I don't know if that's true, if they actually do taste different, because I've never had the money to buy a full truffle and compare. But yeah, so same kind of idea. There was that movie, Pig, right? Was it called Pig? Yeah, with oh gosh. I can't remember his name. I got his face right there. Why can't I think of his name? It's Nicolas Cage. God, why did I forget his name for a second? Yeah, Nicolas Cage was in that movie. It was okay. It's pretty good. Had some cool scenes. I spoke Korean in public by singing happy birthday to my dad 3 times each in a different politeness. You can only sing it in one politeness level, but okay. It's always supposed to be, even with your best friends, 생일 축하합니다. It's always 합니다, no matter who you're singing it to. And there's some expressions like that, like 감사합니다 is default thank you. Although your close friends, you wouldn't do it, but you wouldn't say 감사해. Like it's always 감사합니다 or 감사해요. If you want to be more casual, then you use 고마워 or 고맙다, like that. So but 생일 축하합니다 is just the song, but I get what you're saying. You did it for practicing, so that's good. I get that 공부 is a noun, but when I look up new verbs in the dictionary, it doesn't say the part before is a noun or not and can be split. So, Jelmer, if you are looking at an action verb with 하다, you can split it. If it's 하다, you can split it. If it's an action verb, if it's not an action verb, and you can know that by the English definition, even if you can't figure out what the Korean is, just look at the English definition. Is it an action? Is it 하다? Then you could split it. If it's not in action, but it's 하다, you can't split it because just remember, it's just a descriptive verb. You can't split it. That's the simple answer. There are actual reasons why, but if I explain it, I feel like it's just more confusing. Just remember, action verb 하다, you can split. Descriptive verb 하다, you cannot split. 지내다, to pass time, literally. But it's kind of like to be going on. Like, how are you getting on? Like, how are you doing, basically? So you'd see like 잘 지내다 is the most common way, like to be doing well, to be doing okay. 잘 지내요? 잘 지내세요? Are you doing well? Note that you won't say like, how are you doing to strangers? You won't say, how are you doing to your friends unless it's like been a while since you've talked with them and you're really curious. Because asking someone 어떻게 지내요? How are you doing? 어떻게 지내세요? Is not something you ask strangers. It's something you would ask a friend that you are, or not, doesn't have to be a friend, but an acquaintance that you have already met. You just haven't seen them in a long time. It doesn't sound like how are you doing? It kind of sounds like more of how have you been in this time since I've seen you. Kind of feels like that. So you're not going to hear it too much between friends. You're not going to be going around every time you see a friend, oh, hey, how's it going? You see them again the next day. Hey, how's it going? You don't do that in Korea. It sounds really weird. It's like, I just saw you yesterday. Obviously, the same as then. So, yeah. That's why it's more common in Korea to say things like, oh, 왔어? 왔어요? Like, oh, you're here. Like, good to see you again, sort of thing. Instead of, how are you? And you definitely won't ask, how are you to the person checking out your food at the grocery store. That would be really awkward because you don't know them for the same reason. Will you ever make a lesson about the sound words? Yeah, actually, I have plans to do videos about sound words, but I haven't made them because I had too many other projects to work on. So that's low priority. I have to focus on other projects first. But if more people want me to make that, I have already some plans ready for that. I've had plans for that for like probably a decade now. Some old notes for making onomatopoeia videos and sound word videos. So I messed up and insulted my dad. Your dad will get over it. He's a dad. He'll get over it. Bro, it's morning, 5:15. Well, for you. Difference between 부분 and 인분. So 부분 means a part of something, like a piece of something. What part? It's one part of something. 인분 is a person. Literally, in means person, and 분 is a part. So it's a part for a person, literally. That's how you say a portion. So 부분 would be a part. 인분 would be a portion of food. So a part for a person, it's typically talking about food. It doesn't have to be food, but most of the time it's going to be food. So it's how many portions of food. Like in English, we would say, let me get 3 orders of, like that. So 3 orders of, but 인분 is specifically for ordering food that is not separated into parts. Ordering food that's not counted. So for example, if you wanted to order something like 짜장면. Oops. Why did I wrote the yang at the top of there? So 짜장면 is the black bean sauce noodles. It's hard to translate it, but anyway, yeah, 짜장면 is like noodle dish. So if you wanted to order, you go to the restaurant with you and your friend. So 2 people go. You say 짜장면 2개 주세요. Give me 2. Okay, you're gonna get 2 bowls, right? But let's say you're really hungry, and actually you wouldn't order 짜장면 with 인분. So I'm gonna change this because this one's always served in bowls. Let me find something. Let me think of something. Oh, I got it. Okay, 감자탕. Most most like soups are served in portions. So if you go with your friend and you get 감자탕, say you're really hungry. So you sit down with you and your friend, you would not order 감자탕 2개 주세요 because it's not counted. You don't count the 감자탕. It's served in one big bowl and everyone serves out of there and puts it in their own bowls and eats it. So if you wanted to order more of this, you're ordering portions for how many people there are. So let's say you're really hungry. You would order more than portions for 2 people. You can maybe order like 3인분 or 4인분 if you're really hungry. Also, meat restaurants sell their meat by portions. So if you get like 1인분 for one person, it might only be like 100 grams or 200 grams of a certain meat. So if you go to a restaurant, you say, hey, 3인분 주세요. Like you have 3 people, you get 3인분 주세요, give me 3 portions. You're each only going to get like 100 grams or 200 grams or whatever you order. It'll say on the menu how much it is. But if you're really hungry, it's common that people say 2인분 주세요. 6인분 주세요. I've eaten 6인분 before. It's so much. My God, my stomach hurt. But it was good. I'll typically get like 3인분 for 고기. 2인분 or 3인분 is better for me. But yeah, that's just the portion. So you're not ordering like 1 meat, please. Let me get 2 meats. That doesn't make any sense. You're saying the portion for a person. So things that are shared, things that are served in portions that aren't separate, that aren't ordered separately, like hamburgers would never be 1인분. You never do like hamburger 2인분 주세요. It doesn't make any sense. because you order them as individual items. But if it's not a quantity, but if it's an amount of something, then use inbun. Yeah, inbun is not a count. It would be an amount for a person. Although, you might not have to even specify that, because typically on menus, well, it depends on the menu. They might have in Chinese, or they'll have it in, most of the time now they have it in a Hangul, so you don't have to worry about it. The menu will say 소중대. So this means small, middle, medium, and big. So you can order pronounced as 자, 소자, 중자, 대자. That's the small size, medium size, and a large size. And the menu might have these 소, 중, 대 listed. They might have them listed like this, or if it's an older restaurant for older clientele, they might have it listed with 한자. Same thing. You can just pick which size you want. Like the restaurant might say, oh, if you get like, try to think like, 탕수육. 탕수육 is really common. 탕수육 would be like the sweet and sour chicken, like the fried chicken with sweet and sour sauce. Super good. 탕수육 would always be sold as 소중대. Or they also have mini size as well, which is supposed to be like just a side dish for one person. Usually they'll all get 소자. 소자 will be a lot for one person, but it's enough to like get full on. I'll still eat the whole thing easily, along with more food. But you'd order 소자. Like you'd say 탕수육 소자 하나 주세요, or 저 탕수육 대짜 주세요, like that. Give me a large 탕수육. If you have like 3-4 people, you want to all eat a lot of it. So yeah, you might see it like this. 감자탕 also might be listed like this, depending on how they sell it. But a lot of restaurants, you just walk in, you can just say, oh yeah, 3인분 주세요. Or meat restaurants especially are where it's going to be most commonly used. In fact, a lot of meat restaurants will say ordering starts at 2인분. Like it'll say they'll have a little sign in front of the store. It'll say minimum order is like 2 인분, like that, because they don't want to have someone coming in by themselves, just ordering a tiny bit of meat, getting all the side dishes and getting rice and getting refills of everything. And they have to, turn on the stove, do all the dishes, clean up all this for you, just so that you can eat like what, $10 worth of meat. It's not worth it for them. So a lot of restaurants will say, especially meat restaurants, will say minimum order is 2. And that way, at least they're just paying for their basic ingredients and for their work. But yeah, so just be aware of that. If you wanted to have meat in Korea and you go by yourself, they might say you can't. If they do, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about the minimum order. So usually what I can do is if I go to a restaurant and I want to eat like, regular meat at a Korean restaurant, and I start walking in, and if they say, oh, I'm sorry, you have to order from 2, you can't come here by itself. You can't come here by yourself. You have to come with someone else. Then I say, 아니요, 저 2인분 시킬게요. I'll order 2 portions, basically. Like, hey, don't worry, I'll order 2 portions. And then they're like, oh, okay, fine. We're dealing with one person. You only need one bowl of rice, probably. One side dish for one person, and you're going to order 2 servings of meat. That's fine, because at least they get paid that way. Although usually I'll say like 3인분 시킬게요. I'm gonna get 3. I'm really hungry. Otherwise, people would just take advantage of that. Because a lot of the times the meat, they'll have options for meat that are pretty cheap. So like technically you could walk in and pay less than $10 and, get a nice meal with meat and all these side dishes and tons of lettuce, free refills, and just pay a tiny bit and leave. The 한자 for 인분. Well, there's a different 인분. The normal one is in person, and 분 is the same for 부분, for portion, or a part, an amount. Fried pork, sorry. I said chicken. I don't know why I said chicken. 탕수육, of course, is not chicken. But I was thinking in English when I translated, I was thinking of fried, and the first word that came to my mind was chicken. It's pork. Yeah, sweet and sour pork. I'm sorry to the 탕수육 gods. I offended all of the 탕수육 fans out there and myself. But yeah, 탕수육's great. Is there a chicken 탕수육? I think I actually have seen a chicken version of 탕수육 before, which would be made with chicken. But yeah, oh no, and beef. Beef is also pretty common. Although beef is the what's that called? Guobaro? Guobaro or something like that. There's a different word for the one that's beef, I think. But the beef one's pretty good too. How much percentage of Korean vocab is from Chinese? Yeah, there is no exact number because we don't actually know how many words there are in Korean, to be fair. And which words do you count? Do you count words that are like internet words that they make and then no one uses? Like, what do you count as a word? So typically they go off of what's currently in the dictionary right now. It's about 60%. But yeah, there isn't like an official number of like, oh, this is how many words are in Korean or in any language. We don't really know. Because do you include, random slang words that pop up and no one uses them? Like, what do you include? But it's about the same as Japanese, is what I've heard. Japanese is also about 60%. Although a lot of the words no longer are what they are in Chinese today. Like, they originally were pulled in from Chinese a long time ago, but some of them, the words change meanings, and nowadays Chinese wouldn't use that word or that character anymore. So keep that in mind. It's not like you can transfer over all of the knowledge from one language to another. Like, oh, 60% I can pull over from Chinese. Not quite, but originally, yes. Kind of like Latin. You can pull over the words from Latin, but then just because you know the word from Latin doesn't mean it'll have the exact same meaning today in modern Spanish. Okay, any other questions? I'll do maybe one or two more questions for today. Oh, I didn't say this. So we had a class last Sunday. We learned about Daramida, remember? You probably don't because it's not that useful of a form. Daram, and then today we had the questions. Next Sunday, there is no class because we do 2 classes in a row and then 1 break. So you won't get another class on Sunday. Now, I might still do a live stream if I feel like it. I try to do most weeks, but yeah, there won't be a class next week. So just keep that in mind. There won't be a class for next week. Could you explain 무슨 versus 어느? Yes, I actually have. I have a video in my Korean FAQ series. Search on my channel the difference between 무슨, 어떤, and 어느. I have a video exactly for your question. So I can give you a really quick explanation right now, but the video will go into more examples. 무슨 is what as an adjective. So like what person, what color, what idea, what, like that. What, literally what as an adjective. I won't go over this since you didn't ask it, but it is in the video as well. 어느 means which. So you say which when you're selecting among known choices. So like here are 6 choices. Which do you want? That's what which is. And there's some overlap. Like you could say, what color do you like? Which color do you like? And you're going to get different answers in English. If you ask someone, what color do you like in English? It's just every color. But if you say, which color do you like? It means that you've already presented some choices to them, right? So it's among the choices that you have, which one versus what without any choice. Any choice is valid. That's the really quick explanation of it. But if you want to learn more, there's more examples as well as 어떤 for like what kind. Check out the Korean FAQ episode on that. I'm nervous though. I'll have to film some more Korean FAQ videos before I go to Korea this year. But when I do that, I'm going to have to move my entire set. I have this giant podcast set in my room. I'm going to have to take all of it out of the room in order to film Korean FAQ videos, since those require the whole room to do filming as well. So that's going to be a fun little nightmare that I'll have to do. I'll push that down the road, do that like in May, right before I go to Korea. 한국어로 공부할 따름입니다. I don't know if I did it correctly. You're just sticking 따름 on the end of whatever you want to say, right? I only study Korean. That's all I'm doing. Do you know how many dialects are in Korea? So there are 6 dialect regions in Korea, if that's what you're asking. But how many dialects? Every city can have its own separate dialect. So there are tons of dialects, quote unquote. But if you are asking that question in the first place, the answer I think you want is just 6. Because while technically there are differences between Busan dialect, Ulsan dialect, Daegu dialect, Changwon dialect, Gimhae dialect, like all these different areas. What was the other one? Oh, there's another area in that I can't think of right now. Anyway, yeah, technically there are differences between all these little cities. They all have their own little things, but they have a lot of similarities. So they're kind of collectively referred to as the Gyeongsang dialects. So those major dialect groups, there are 6, but in there, every city is a little different. Like there is a Seoul dialect technically, but there's also an Incheon dialect, which is where the airport is. That's like an hour away from Seoul, but it has its own dialect. And some words are still used today that are from that dialect. So yeah. Oh, Masan. That's the other place I was trying to think. Because there's like a bunch of little cities around in the same area, but they all have their own little quirks. Chine, I believe, is there too. Other quirks in its dialect. Like every little area has their own little like expressions or dialect stuff. Can you explain Cool Naso? So I actually have Gusis. I have a live stream I did all about that. I'm going to link that to you. That is the Google document with all of the live streams I've ever done. If you search Cool Naso in there, you'll find a full lesson about the form. If it ever wants to, there we go. Basically though, the Cool Naso is just completely after something. It just has that emphasis of after doing something versus saying I did this and I did this. Now you're saying I did this and then after that I did this. So it adds that and after that nuance. And there's some other forms of that also, which I cover in the live stream. Anine says, not a question, but I just bought all 3 of Korean Made Simple and Korean Conversation Made Simple. Nice. I also really like Korean Conversation Made Simple is my personal favorite. I feel like if I were brand new learning Korean and I could only buy one of my books, which one would I get? And I would pick Korean Conversation Made Simple personally, just because it opens up so much of the stuff that's like hiding kind of behind the textbook style of speech that you really can't get to because you have to learn the basics first, but you need to get there eventually. And it kind of is like, okay, here you go. Now here's all the rest of the stuff that I know you've been seeing and wondering about. That was a really fun project to do. But yeah, make sure also to get the audio files if you haven't already. I'm sure you have. Okay. Any other last minute questions before we close for today? I've been reviewing every chapter of Korean Made Simple 3 for 2 months. Okay, nice. I'm also currently using Korean Conversation Made Simple. Nice, nice. Yeah, the book also, since you said you have the book, it also has an additional 5 conversations, which I like those too. I think they get even higher level, teach some more stuff on top of that. Is dialect basically how someone in the South would use a different word than someone from somewhere else? Yes, exactly. Exactly. Now, I wouldn't say the dialects are crazy different because Korea is a smaller country compared to like the US, but there are still some pretty big differences with how someone who's, especially older people, like say someone who's 70 or 80 would sound really different between the different areas of Korea. You'll hear some huge differences. Younger people, then it's less common, but you still can. Do you have any tips for practicing speaking? Just starting out. I've tried joining chat rooms and it's always too advanced, even though I know a lot of vocabulary. So have you tried joining, when you say chat room, have you tried those like the Tandem and HelloTalk voice rooms? I also recommend those. If you are at the level where you're not able to really speak much, you're just starting, but you want to get some listening practice and speaking, I mean, not listening, Listening practice, get that from like beginning Korean learning podcasts, variety shows, YouTubers like that. But for speaking practice, a cheap tutor. And I say cheap tutor not to devalue their service, but to say affordable, very affordable, because you don't need to have someone with qualifications just to talk with you, just to say, hey, right? Like you could do that for someone learning English. Even if you don't know how to teach English, someone says, hey, I'll pay you. And will you just talk to me in English? You could do that. You don't need to know how to teach English. So I would try that, just someone to speak with. But really the best way, if you can, is just to try to find friends online, pen pals. I don't know if it's still popular, but the app, I think it's called Slowly. It was like where you write like letters kind of, and it takes a long time to send it to the person you're talking with. I never used it, but I heard like a decade ago that people liked that. If that still exists, that's another option. Any sort of pen pal website or pen pal app is also fine. That's the best option because it's free. You can send voice messages. You can, if you send them a message first, send them a voice message first, or ask them to send you a voice message. Like that's the best way because it's free and you can get more that way. But if you can't do that for any reason, then yeah, I would just say, try to find an inexpensive tutor that you can just say, hey, I only want to speak Korean. Like, please only speak 한국말로만 해주세요. 한국말로 해주세요. Like, just speak to me in Korean, and that's it. That should be good. North Korean's supposed to be very different. I made a video about North Korean, actually. You can check it out on my channel. It is a little bit, but it's not like crazy. The main difference for North Korean, besides some expressions here or there, the main difference is just that they don't have the same technical terms, because a lot of the words that South Korean uses for foreign words, like technical words and stuff like that, science, chemistry, all that, they come from English. Whereas North Korea says, oh, we don't want to use those impure Korean, those impure foreign words. We're going to use our own pure Russian words. It's the exact same problem, but now you have all these Russian terminology. Or even if they don't, they'll say, we're going to be more pure and use these Chinese words. So now you're stuck with this, like a bunch of technical vocabulary that doesn't translate and you have no clue what they're talking about. Like you're not going to know the word for smartphone. You're going to have to refer to it as a hand phone. They say like hand telephone is one way to call it. So that's the biggest problem, is like technical words and foreign words. But the language themselves, like the actual language, you're not going to have a problem speaking with someone from North Korea if you speak Korean. But it is difficult for them because of those technical words, like a lot of Konglish words that they're not going to have, that South Koreans use all the time. So they have to learn those. Tandem voice rooms. Okay. I decided to train my speech last week by doing a voice recording. It made me cringe. That's good. We have to do this tough stuff though. No pain, no learning. Yeah, I have that. This is a secret behind the scenes piece of knowledge, but in my beginner course, episode 21 is when I introduce native voice recordings into each lesson for the beginner course, because I realized I want to actually have, like, you can hear native speaking. So I asked my friends, hey, can you send me voice clips? So for that episode, Keycat throws me this little voice recorder and says, here are some native voice recordings you can add to your lessons. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, thanks. That voice recorder is actually my real voice recorder I used when I was learning. I didn't have it I don't remember. I think I lost it before when I was learning Korean. So it doesn't have Korean stuff, but it has Japanese on it. It's, to this day, should still have my Japanese recordings from like 2003, 2002, when I was learning Japanese for the first time. And that was doing that exact same thing. I would click record on the little voice recorder, and I would say in my, my best possible way, I'd repeat the conversation that I was reading in my book, and then I'd replay it back to myself, and it was cringe as hell. But that helps because you're like, oh, I can definitely say that sound better. Why did I say it like this? And then you work on that stuff. And then you record it again a few months later, and you're like, oh, wow, I sound way better than I did a few months ago. And it's like motivating because you hear less and less cringe as you go on. I never got out of the cringe level completely because that's when I stopped and switched over to Korean, was after about 3 years of doing Japanese. But yeah, you do stuff that's kind of painful. But the nice thing though is that no one else had to hear it. So I kept it for myself for fun, but I wasn't going around and playing it like, here, listen to me trying to speak Japanese, making a fool of myself. I didn't have to do that. It's mine. I mean, I could have deleted it except for I wanted to keep it for, for my records, but you don't have to show anyone. It's just for you. One sentence that'll impress a Korean immediately. Is this a situation where you are already speaking Korean or not? I would say a dialect expression could probably work for that. I actually mentioned it earlier. So you don't know any Korean, but you want to impress a Korean. This is not polite, but it's okay because you're not speaking in Korean. If you speak Korean and you're trying to say this to someone, it's kind of rude because it's like slang dialect. But if you don't speak Korean and that you want to say, hey, I know some Korean. This is Busan dialect, but everyone knows it. It's a classic expression. Morakano. But this is important. The intonation is important. Morakano. So the intonation has to go up, 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 and then down on the last syllable. No. Morakano. Morakano. Try saying it. Morakano. 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 You have to say it like that. Morakano, which is short for, well, it's a dialect version of Morago Hano. And the way it originally happened is this O sound went away and the hiat sound went away. So you're left with morak. This plus this, hiat plus hiat, makes a K sound, as it normally does in sound change rules. So you're left with that. But it originally would be morago hano, like literally, what are you saying? With a no for explaining. It's an explaining ending, question ending for dialect. So you won't be learning about it in today's lesson, even though it's similar for asking questions, but it's a dialect version. Morakano. Morakano. You have to kind of say it like you're frustrated with them. Like, what are you saying? Morakano. What are you even saying? Like, what are you on, man? What's up? What are you talking about? Morakano. So, yeah, this will instantly impress a Korean person. If you don't speak any Korean, it will. If you already speak Korean, this is just going to be, they're going to be like, oh, I guess you learned Busan dialect. Ha ha ha, I know that too. If you already know Korean though, and you're already speaking in Korean and you want to sound like, you want to really impress someone, I recommend filler words. I recommend filler because filler will sound really natural. Something like 아니 근데, hey, like, this is like hey but. So like hey but, it's like when you start talking about something, you're like, hey, I'm getting your attention. I'm going to say something that's counter to what you're expecting or counter to what you were talking about. So someone's talking about blah, 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 like, oh, I did this and this. 아니 근데. Just do that. Start your sentence with that. They're going to be like, oh, what? Like, because it's a very natural thing to say that's not going to be in a textbook. Although it's ani, if you say it as one expression and you end your sentence with yo or some polite form, it's not casual. So you don't have to worry about like insulting them by saying ani, even though ani is casual. If you say ani, 근데, that's casual. But 아니 근데 is okay because you're saying it to yourself. It's quickly. It's like 아니, like wait, like but, wait, but, or hey, but, like that. So you can think of this as kind of like saying however or but at the beginning of your sentence, and then you still have to complete the rest of your sentence. Again, this is assuming you can speak some Korean. But if you start it like that, it sounds like extremely like you speak Korean, like no doubt about it, right from the first word. Like maybe your friend's like, 오늘 뭐 땡긴 거 없니? 먹고 싶은 거 없어? Something you feel like you don't want to eat anything? 아니 근데 아까도 뭐 돈가스를 먹었는데 오늘은 돈가스 먹는 게 좀 그렇지 않을까? I don't know. You can like, if you start it with 아니 근데, it's like, but like, hey, like, it has that feeling like you speak Korean. So they're going to think like, oh man, you're like native level if you start it with that, even though it's not that big of a deal to throw on. What is 굳이? 굳이? If you put really with an upward intonation in the middle of your sentence as an adverb, it implies, I don't think so, right? Like, do you really want to go there? Right? I'm not saying, do you really want to go there? I'm saying, do you really want to do that? Right? That really type of feeling is 굳이. I don't like really. It could, if it's used in a question, it's like this. If it's not used in a question, it's like, do you like really? Kind of like that. It's showing like, I don't think so, like doubt. So it's that really, but like I doubt it sort of meaning of really of an adverb. If someone's like, hey, do you want to go, like, oh, it's good weather today. Do you want to walk to the restaurant instead of take the bus? It's only 30 minutes. You're like, 굳이 해야 되나? Like, do I really have to do that? It's kind of like that. Like, you could also just say 굳이 like by itself. It's like, do I really? So it's basically like saying no, I don't think so. It's not necessarily, it's not like a casual word though. I'm expressing it in those terms in English so you can understand what it feels like, but it's a regular adverb, but it just implies like, really? Like that. KitKat is cute. Yes, I think KitKat's cute too. Billy, I enjoy your videos. I'm in level A1, A2. What do you think about playing games like The Sims in Korean? Yeah, play games in Korean, but I recommend games that are actually natively made in Korean, because if you're doing The Sims in Korean, that's pretty much like the same as changing your phone to Korean. You're not getting that much out of it. The Sims don't talk. They go, they make their Sim sounds, right? You want a game that actually uses dialogue in Korean. So I'd recommend playing a Korean, like a mobile game. Can you put, what was that game? Popular Nikkei, I think. That does it have a Korean? Can you play it in Korean? Like, play a game that's made in Korean, not a game that's translated into Korean, especially a game that has more than just a Korean user interface. So a game that has people talking, like don't do Skyrim in Korean. It's just going to be all like Google translated sentences and stuff. Do an actual game in Korean. Arizona Sunshine was a Korean made game, I believe. I think so. Yeah, I think so, wasn't it? The VR game? Anyway, and it has, Korean voice actors in it, which sound hilarious. It's like so bad. Get a game that's actually made in Korean. And there are a lot of them on Steam these days. There are people who make like curated lists of Korean games. Find ones that actually have Korean dialogue, and, voiced dialogue is best. But yeah, Sims is not really going to help you that much outside of teaching you some like UI language words that you're not going to be able to use too much. 안 해도 되는데 왜 굳이 하려고 해? Yeah. Hey, 뭐 안 해도 되는데 왜 굳이 하려고 해? Like, you don't have to do that, but like, are you really trying to do that? Like, I can't believe it. 아니 근데 진짜. Yeah, there you go. 아니 근데 진짜. You can make it even stronger. So you're talking about like Chica Baduk. You're going to the next level. 아니 근데 is fine, but if you want to say like, but like really, 아니 근데 진짜 막 정말 약간 굉장히 굉장히 here we go. Here we go. This is the instant expression that makes you sound like a native Korean master. They will no longer doubt your Korean abilities when you throw this sentence. 아니 근데 진짜 wait, I spelled this wrong. I don't know why I wrote that. 아니 근데 진짜 그 뭐 막 정말 약간 굉장히 and you said Jack said nothing. But this is a real sentence. You could say it. Like but it's really, you know, that like really kind of so that and then by the time you get here, oh wait, you can't even read it, but I wrote 저 and But by the time you get to here 굉장히, they're already gone. They've left the room. That's the secret that Koreans won't tell you, is that expression will get you any job you want for Korean. Like as soon as you say that, they're going to be like, all right, we found the perfect Korean speaker. Let's hire this person. Maple Story, yeah. Maple Story. Pokemon in Korean, the game, a little bit. But you're not going to learn speaking from the Pokemon game because the characters are not speaking realistically. They're all just going to use casual speech with the exception of probably like a couple like Professor Oak and stuff like that. It's just casual speech. You're not getting real Korean from that. And it's only a little bit. Most of the dialogue in Pokemon is like, you found a Master Ball. You found a Pokemon. I choose Pikachu. Like these aren't things you're going to use in your real life. Although actually you might say Pikachu 너로 정했다. You might say like, I choose you, Pikachu. Yeah, sometimes we'll like make jokes about like, I choose like you or whatever. You can say it in Korean as like a joke. Like, who should I pick? I choose you. Like as if you're saying Pikachu, but it's not that useful. Games with voiced dialogue are a million times better. 있잖아요. 이제 저 자러 가야겠어요. 레슨 감사합니다. Yeah, and then hiss. That's right. You got to add in the hiss. You got to be like, 아니 근데 이제 있잖아. 그거 막 약간 굉장히 진짜 정말 it's like piss everyone off. Yeah, we got to add that in. Okay, new version. Well, actually, I think 진짜 is going to be before the hiss. Because you got to start saying something. So let's do 진짜 정말 약간 더 있잖아. 막 yeah, you gotta add in a 막. No, let's put the mock up here because I don't want to use one word more than once. 그 막 약간 저 있잖아. you gotta hiss. What else can we do? 아니 근데 진짜 정말 막 약간 저 있잖아. Oh my god. It's so bad. Don't do this. Oh, EJ, I'm forgetting that. EJ 그 있잖아. EJ. Let's put EJ here. Let me think. The EJ 진짜. Oh no, I think I'm going to put EJ earlier cuz EJ usually goes a little bit earlier in the sentence when it is used. So EJ 아니 근데 no cuz we're going to do 아니 근데 진짜 is more common. 진짜 정말 EJ 그 막. That's what we got to do. EJ 막 약간 저 있잖아. Okay, here we go. This expression will instantly tell every Korean in the entire world that you speak 100% perfect native level Korean, and they will never doubt your Korean abilities ever. 아니 근데 진짜 정말 이제 막 약간 저 있잖아. 사실 and that's a good point. Yeah, that's how it is. 사실 Yeah, there we go. Okay, now it's perfect. Now it's perfect. I was forgetting 사실. 사실 is perfect. We needed 사실. Yeah. So that sounds like, okay, now we have this thing that's going to piss anyone off. But then we're like, okay, now I'm going to actually tell you. We got a couple more words. Okay. So here, this is the expression that if you use it, Koreans will instantly feel like, oh, this person's 100% native. They can't, their Korean is perfect. It couldn't possibly get any better. All you got to do is look a Korean straight in the eye and say, 아니 근데 진짜 정말 이제 그 막 약간 저 있잖아. 사실 There we go. There we go. That's the best filler in Korea. The best filler in Korean. Now you are a native Korean speaker. Once you say that, you're going to, by the time you finish saying it, the person you're speaking with will be 2 blocks down the road. And they'll have already blocked you on Kakao Messenger. There we go. If you said that to a Korean, what would their reaction be like? They would be pissed. I'm trying to think, how far in this would you get before they start like laughing or being confused? 아니 근데 진짜 정말 그 이제 그 막 약간 up to here I think you'd be safe. 막 약간 up to here you'd be safe. As soon as you say and it shows you're not even done thinking, they're gonna be like, what? But you could easily get up to here, like no problem. Here, 0 questions, 진짜. 정말. Then it's like, are you sure? 이제, but now it sounds, okay, now you're going to say something. Oh, they're not sure? 막 약간. Oh, now they're going to say something. Now, okay, like fool me once kind of thing. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, that sort of thing. By this point, they're like done. They're like, okay. 저 있잖아. 사실. Oh yeah, the art of saying so much and saying absolutely nothing. Yeah, Keith, feel free to make it a short, or I don't know if no one else does, maybe I can. Yeah. Never say this. You will lose all your friends and it will be all my fault. But these are all really good filler words you should know. I think that's like, there actually are more filler words than that. I know that 너무 is a really commonly used filler word. 뭔가, 뭐. I didn't use any of those. 뭔가, 뭐 is also pretty common. Yeah, there's some more filler words, but those are like the common ones, I'd say. 정말 그 뭔가 약간. Yeah, we could have gone a little farther, but I feel like we've already gone to the moon. Let's not try for Mars today. Can 뭐 also be used as a filler word? Oh, yes. Yeah, 뭐 is also used as a filler word. It's used when you don't know what to say. It's like that what I'm trying to say is 뭐. And 뭔가 also, something like when you're describing something, 그 뭔가, like something about it is. And you already saw Chan from Stray Kids likes his filler words. Now, there's someone in Stray Kids that likes filler words more than Pangchan. You'll see later. Might not be who you think it is. You always use the subject marker when you ask questions. Oh, I see what you're. Okay, so you're talking about to mark what's doing something. Do you always use the subject marker? No, but it tends to be because the subject marker is for marking who or what is doing an action verb, or who or what is being described by a verb. So it is literally like, this is the thing that I'm talking about, or person that I'm talking about, that I'm talking about with this verb. It's like, this verb goes with this person is kind of what you're saying, or this thing. So because of that, yes, you're going to use the subject marker most of the time, but you don't have to, because there are other markers and particles you can use. You can say like, this person, 또, this person also does that, like that. Or only this person, man, only this person does that. Or how about, as for this person, do they do that? You can use the topic marker, un or nun. So you don't have to, but tends to for simple questions like, is it this? Is it this? Are you this? Are you going? Then it's common to use the subject marker because the focus of your question is on the verb. Like, are you going? Right? In English, we'd also do that too. Are you going versus are you going? You can say, are you going? And are you going in Korean separately, just like you can in English. 너는 안 가? Are you going? Are you not going? You have that you versus 너 가? 가? Are you going? Without adding the subject, without adding the topic marker, sorry. It doesn't have that extra nuance. So it's just like, are you going? And it has the nuance on the verb. So in Korean, you can mess with the nuance by either, adding or removing a topic. So you can do the same thing in English and Korean. Sometimes I see 또 in a sentence and it doesn't mean anything. I can't remember exactly where I've seen it used this way. Yeah. If you're talking about like 또 as in like again, or you're talking about 또 as in like in addition, which would probably be yeah. And there's actually three. 또, 또한, and 또는, and they're all different, which doesn't really make things easier, but you don't need, I guess that what does make things easier though is you don't really need all three of them most of the time. 또 as an adverb to mean again is common, but the other two are more for like formal usage. So you'll see them in like writing, but you're not going to need to worry about them in everyday speech. 난 집에 갈 거야. 너는? Yeah, I'm going home. You? Okay, I think that's enough for today. We did an extra hour of questions, so I think I'll stop it for here. Thank you everyone for coming. There will be a brand new Stray Kids video tomorrow about Changbin, of course. If you are one of my Patreon members, you can also watch the next episode, Hyunjin. After that, the same day, the same time that goes live, you can watch the next one as well. There will not be a class next Sunday because we did a class last week and this week, so next week is off. I may or may not do a live stream, but there won't be like a class with an outline and everything for that. So that is the lesson. Thank you for coming, and I will see you again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.